is true.
Wait, are we arguing that there's not a bad Shane Black thing? Is nobody saying
No.
Oh no!
Predators was all right.
No,
Was
Wait,
it?
wasn't Predators the one that
The
happened
movie is about Eric. The movie's about weaponizing autism, which is a fucking 4chan
Wait,
joke.
am I doing the wrong Predator movie?
The Predator, not
Autism
Predators.
is a superpower now.
Yeah.
Which one?
Yeah,
Which one's
Predators
the
was good.
Predators one?
Yeah, not the
Talk
first,
about
not
the
the first one, the new one.
Predators.
last
Predators,
one.
the one with Adrian
the last
Brody.
one, the Adrian Brody one I liked.
Yeah, that one's
Adrian
fine.
Brody one is fine. Yeah.
Oh,
the
is this the one that
Adrian
me and
Brody one is
Steve were
fine.
laughing about for like ages?
Yes,
Oh,
for
okay.
a long time. It took
The Predator.
Yeah, we're talking about the Thomas Jane, Keegan Michael Key one.
Oh yeah, that one was.
It was
that
so
one was
bad.
terrible.
It was so bad.
Technically, their name should be Hunters. We don't care.
Let's kill 'em with
called Predators.
sarcasm.
We know they're
That's
not.
the one
we
where they
know, we
randomly
understand.
blew up houses and no repercussions happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. The kid totally kills that guy. Just walks down the street. You know,
Oh
like
my
the
God.
last scene, they had toyed with different reveals, and one of them, instead of it just being like a Predator's armor suit, it was actually going to be Newt from Alien.
What?
Yeah. A grown-up Newt encased in a cryogenic.
It's
thing.
like Shane Black was like, "Man, I need to buy another house. I guess I'll make a really shitty Predator movie."
But I will say, if it had that ending, our whole reaction to the movie might have been slightly different.
Well, we would know
we'd
it was
still
a
hate
silly
it.
joke. Yeah.
yeah, but we'd be laughing about it.
It's
Instead
like
of
they
crying.
wasted Newt on this. Newt.
What does it matter anyway? Who cares?
I think it'd be great if you just brought out like an adult Newt, but never explained that it was Newt.
That's what they would have done too. You know,
Well,
just
Newt
based on
died
the-
in the third Alien movie anyway, so
Well, she died in between the two, actually. It was
That's
on
true, yeah.
transport.
not taking the
Hi, boy.
And with that, I say welcome to Geeks with Kids, the bi-weekly geeky podcast from a parenting point of view. I know you've been listening to us talk about aliens and predators for a little while now, but you know, we're gonna go into our actual thing.
That's today's topic.
Could
We're
you
going to talk
imagine?
about worms.
We are actually here to talk about Dune, the 2021 adaptation of Frank Herbert's classic novel. Canadian director Denis Villeneuve did the impossible and filmed this film. And we're gonna talk.
Oh, way to give away the ending there.
I'm sorry. Well, at least I have an ending.
Wait,
unlike
this
the
is
movie.
a
What? No,
film?
just joking.
What?
Oh,
That was a joke. Joining me this week is David, Hawk, Steve, Brent, and Chos. We're just looking up to you, like we're lower than you, Chos. The camera's much lower, so we're just like,
Yeah,
Wrangler.
that's much better.
Nice. I like that sideways. That's
Get
good.
down there.
yeah. So today we're gonna talk about the book that was deemed unfilmable. And we'll probably talk about the old versions.
Who said that though? I want to know specific. Like,
Well,
does that
That
Somebody-
label has been thrown out with so
but-
many books and that, and like
Yeah, like Lord of the
filmmakers find a
Rings.
way.
But it's
Yeah.
true though. There's been 6 or 7 attempts. Really, we only talk about 3. But there
Yeah.
were many attempts. Anyway, back to the new one.
Yeah. So like we do every show, we're gonna ask you what's good. So let's go with Dave. What's good?
Well, other than watching Dune 3 times,
Nice. Nice.
I wonder if you like the movie.
well, I watched the
Nope, not at all.
the new one twice yesterday and the 84 version once today. I don't know. I literally have just been playing Back for Blood. Like
Yeah.
that's it. I don't do anything else right now.
We had a
That's
good
good.
run on
That's a good
Saturday.
life.
I gotta say.
We did. We finished
That's fun
Act
to see.
1. Hopefully we'll finish Act 2 sometime this week. I still haven't beaten the game despite having over 30 hours in it. And it only came out
Wow.
on Tuesday. I played some PvP. It's pretty good actually. We should play some
We
more
did
PvP.
good in PvP too, which is surprising.
I mean, there's like people are still learning the game, so you have some really one-sided matches. Where
You can't blame me. I wasn't there for the PvP.
we won.
I
We
mean,
won
I have
really well.
most matches I
That's
find are you
because I
go
wasn't
in
there.
and you either get utterly destroyed or you destroy the other team. There's not a lot of like, I don't think there's like any ELO or anything. So it's just kind of whoever's there deciding to murder you.
Hilo.
But yeah, yeah, not Electronic Light Orchestra.
I was gonna say Electric Light Orchestra.
No. But yeah, it's fun, and you can get it right now on Game Pass for $1 if you want. $1. Plus, there's a bunch of other games on Game Pass, so you can,
some really good ones. Minecraft is coming out. I hear that's a
Mhm.
good game. I've never played it.
I hear it's very popular
joined
with
my server.
the youth.
Yeah.
Minecraft. Yeah. Sounds like.
I don't
sounds
know
like
if
a
I
fun
can
you.
join your server because it's going to be on Game Pass. So who knows what they're allowed.
No,
Game
but
Pass is gonna have-
I have my own realm on there.
Yeah, but
That
do you
anyone,
have?
as long as I invite you to, it should be
Are you on
cross-platform.
Java or Bedrock? Is the question.
Uh,
Or are you on
Bedrock.
console?
I'm on Bedrock. Yeah,
If you're on console, you can't. There's no crossplay for console.
I thought there was if you got a realm. Because I thought that was the whole idea, is that if you got a realm, you can only sign in with the Microsoft account. So
Just I
It
know
might
you
be-
play Minecraft.
It might be Xbox sided
Yeah.
cross platform, but everything else can't. Like you can't play
Oh, yeah.
PC and PS5 or like Android versions. So obviously totally separate and all that stuff.
Yeah,
yeah, I'm playing it on the PS5. So
I think David's right in that case. Like, I know you can connect like a mobile game with like the Windows version; those work.
Oh, do I?
So if you're playing on your phone or whatever, but I don't think you can connect a console like the Nintendo Switch version with the PlayStation version.
Because my girlfriend at the time many years ago, she had it on PS4 and I played it on PC and we couldn't play together.
Hmm.
And I still don't think you can do that.
well, that's
But-
unfortunate because my realm has a roller coaster and a functional casino.
Oh, that's awesome.
Damn it.
But
We
does
just all
it
have
have
to get
ray
PS5 versions of the game
tracing?
now.
Does it have
Oof.
ray tracing?
So yeah, you can play Xbox One to PC and everybody else is just
No.
borked. Yeah, that's it.
That's sad.
It is.
But that's sort of what Bethesda is going to be end up doing soon. Anyways, let's move on over to Hawk. What's good, my friend?
Hey,
What's yummy? What's yum 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 yum?
what's my yum?
Tasty? The tastiness.
Juicy.
Is it
nothing too much on
savory?
the-
No, that's umami right there. That's what that is.
We should
got some
call it
yum right
that.
there.
What's your umami?
What's your umami?
I
Much
my
prefer that, to be
umami.
honest.
My yum umami. What's good this week? It's something I actually something I actually haven't watched yet. I've been planning to, but I just know it's going to be good in that. And it's a documentary on the Velvet Underground. It's on Apple Plus right now for everybody to watch, and I'm really excited about it because, like you know, for anybody who knows the band and that, I mean, they were the counterculture band of the 60s and that, in a time of like massive counterculture. There was this little band from New York and that, made up of Lou Reed, John Cale, Sterling Morrison, and Mo Tucker and that, who as Brian Eno said, famously only sold 30,000 copies of the record, but everybody who bought that record started a band. They are
That's fair.
probably as influential as the Beatles and
The Sparks
Todd
Brothers.
Haynes. Exactly right. Todd Haynes, the indie movie director, and that, who was behind the Velvet Goldmine, took all this archival footage of them from the 60s and that to make this and put it through like this weird kaleidoscope process. So, really excited to watch it. And
Velvet
it's my-
Goldmine had Obi-Wan in it, right? Ewan McGregor.
yes, he did. Playing what was his name? That was the funny thing about that movie, because it was an unofficial David Bowie biopic where he wasn't allowed to use the words names David Bowie or Iggy Pop.
He played Kurt
Yeah.
Wilde.
Kurt Wilde, right? Yeah, that was like the name he chose for the Iggy Pop character.
Nice.
Is this documentary like a series or is it just a movie?
Just a movie in that, like you said, they found a bunch of archival film footage, and this is weird, which was amazing because there's not a lot of like film footage of that time from this band, not like the Beatles, like where it's like everybody was documenting everything they did, and we're actually going to see a documentary from them on Apple Plus at the end of November, and that
It's a 3-part miniseries. Ooh, I'm
One
so
for each
excited.
lip. Oh wait.
Really looking forward to seeing it.
Oh.
I don't give a fuck about your Beatles.
The Beatles are amazing. I like the idea of that Beatles documentary, that it's building up to them doing the rooftop concert. Like, that's phenomenal.
Yeah.
I think that's great. And seeing them,
I would
wanna see-
like to throw a quick little humble brag out there, but I did once get to work with one of the Beatles, and it was one of the coolest nights of my life. But heads the expectations. It was Pete Best. It was not one of the main four.
That's
Oh,
still,
come on.
you know what? That's still fine.
I got to work backstage crew, and like he was basically like, "You need a drink? Let me go get you a drink. I got this for you. Like,
Yeah.
you need me to show you some around? Let me show you around." Like,
That's
it was
pretty
just
cool.
a really, really surreal experience.
Did you
I
know?
feel like that guy has lived off sympathy for pretty much like the entirety of whatever career he's had. It's like how could you not be angry?
He's 79 and he was in the Beatles for 2 years. Like, you gotta chill.
Yeah.
Did everyone here go to Mac? Dave, you didn't go to Mac, right?
No.
Everyone else did, right?
No, that
Did you go?
diploma.
No.
That diploma's from Niagara College, Eric. I only
Okay.
have a
So the four on my right.
I am Mohawk boy.
Did you guys know that the Velvet Underground played at Mac?
Get out.
Yeah,
Really?
I did not know that.
there are like ticket stubs of them playing like really early.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
There's somebody in like Australia who listens to this podcast and like, what the fuck are they talking about?
We do actually have listeners in Australia.
The
which is
Velvet
funny.
Underground.
Yeah.
Yeah, but underground.
It's an
I'm taking this
emergency
to the
from
Prime Minister.
Please comment on how bad our Aussie accents are. And
I think we've lost our Aussie listeners now.
It's Aussie listener. Let's get that right.
Yeah.
But that's cool. Is it out now? It's out now already.
Yeah, it's on Apple Plus right now. So
Yeah, definitely check out the Sparks Brothers documentary. I'm pretty sure we talked about it before, but that movie's phenomenal. It's directed by Edgar Wright, and it's about a band that apparently is super influential, but no one from our generation
no
knows.
one knows them.
Wow.
Yeah, but when you listen to their
fantastic.
music, you'll hear their influence on every band you've listened to. It's crazy.
It really is like their 1971 record and that it's like I can hear new wave in this, I can hear glam rock, and it's like these are genres that didn't even have names at the time.
Crazy. All right, let's move on. We should do a music documentary episode when the Beatles one comes out.
Yeah.
Ooh. I like this idea. All right, Steve, what's good? What is good? Your ramen?
Yeah, my ramen was pretty good. Yeah, I don't know. I just woke up, sleeper must awaken, and all that. Reference.
Reference to not this movie.
Yeah, and you know what? I think the last thing I was talking about the last time was just how unhappy I was with all my fandoms, like kind of going to shit. And I was just hoping and praying, Dune, it's my last one. And yeah, and we'll find out very soon whether or not that worked out. That's pretty much been my umami. Is that what we're going with?
You can just go with your yum. You know,
Umami, I hardly know her.
I'm never going with that.
Your
that's
umami could be back for blood. I'm just saying. All right.
Yeah, I know. I'm debating. Anyway,
it's a very savory game.
It is.
I had good umami ramen and Dune, and I'm happy.
I don't want you to say your ramen's good if it was just all right. That's all. I'm just saying.
Oh, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Hey, it's my breakfast. I mean, it's tasty.
And if we're talking about ramen, that's the perfect time to actually say umami.
Yeah, this is fair.
There you go.
This is fair.
Yeah.
What about
Totally
you,
intentional.
Shows? What's your yum?
So it wouldn't be my yum if I wasn't talking about Animal Crossing. And last week
on the Nintendo GameCube.
Yes, the GameCube, the 3DS. No, so last week they had a Animal Crossing Direct online, and they basically said, hey, this game's been out for a couple of years now. Let's just throw a massive amount of new content at the players. So they announced a whole bunch of new stuff coming out. They announced a new DLC, all kinds of stuff. So
Nice.
it's a game that I've already plugged hundreds of hours into. And now, just as I start to get away from its grasp and to try some other games, I find out that on November 5th, I'm going to be jumping back into Animal Crossing again. So I'm excited about that.
That's
but
so
what I've been
cute.
playing right now is, and losing very, very quickly is the new Metroid game. I've been playing that. I listened to you guys talk about some of your thoughts on Metroidvanias and whatnot. This game is kicking my butt. That's for sure.
Yep.
I
never released our review of it. I realized that we reviewed it last week, and I never released it.
Oh, you got to put that out there.
I should.
I think you did.
It's very hard.
Well, we did it live, and then I totally forgot to download it.
You got a lot going on.
I thought you did put it out.
No, I'll put it out in podcast form. But yeah, shows we reviewed it. I think we all generally gave it a thumbs up. I had a lot of issues with that game, but I still liked it.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. It's gorgeous.
It was an hour. It was an hour of us it was an hour of us shitting on it, and then at the end going, "Oh, we liked it."
Yeah, you should still play it. You should still play it.
My favorite thing for the Switch.
That's love, isn't it?
It's like how people talk about me.
I've still tried. I'm still on the end boss, and it's still fucking killing me, and it's still frustrating me. Oh my
I just
God.
beat him this weekend.
Ah, fuck you. No.
Ah.
Good for you. God damn it, that last boss. But yeah. I sent you guys. I think it was in the Facebook Messenger. A video of Adam Sessler doing a review of Metroidvania, and every time I listened to him, I was like, you know what? He's 100% right. Everything he's saying is right. Everything. I think it soured my review a little bit after listening to him.
Oh no.
It's because of that last boss. Anyway, yeah, Metroidvania. Awesome. Metro Dread, pretty good. All right, Brent.
Well, first off, what's not yum right now is my internet connection is just absolute garbage, and you guys are all cutting in and out constantly, and I know it's on my end.
Oh.
So, but speaking of the Metroidvanias, my yum, and thank you to Steven for bringing this up at the last one. I finally started playing Control last night, and I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
So
I'm glad.
I got on with I put it on at probably 1 o'clock in the morning last night with the intention of let me just play a little bit of it and stream it, and then I'll get.
You're
back
still
into
awake from today, from last night, aren't you?
I played it. I think probably until about 4 or 5 in the morning.
God,
And you watched Dune as well. Oh man, you're messed up.
Yes.
That's good.
That's amazing. That's hilarious.
Well, I'm glad because I'm not really a Metroidvania guy, so I'm glad that it's something you're enjoying. So that's awesome.
Yeah. Oh, and I think I sent this
It's one of those it had been on my playlist for a long time, especially when the free PS5 upgrade came out. That's how I got it. So I'm like, it's always been there to play, but it wasn't really until you sat down and discussed it and everyone else started gushing over it. And I'm like, okay, yeah, we'll get into this now.
It's very good. I also I think I sent this to Hawk. I didn't send it to everyone, but Carrion, which was one of Steve's picks, is now on the PlayStation Network, so you guys can play it over there.
Yes.
And it's also on Xbox Game Pass. So you can play for $1.
Oh fuck! I need to get on that. Yeah, and they released it on sale too on PS5.
Nice.
Yeah, PlayStation. I think it's 20% off or something.
They're doing their Halloween sale right now, and they have a lot of good games actually on it. Maybe I was thinking about doing a post about Halloween games. Both of the Man of Medan games are out there. So
right.
I think about them. I'm
There's
thinking about
3 of them now, isn't there?
You mean the Dark Pictures anthology? Man of Medan is just one of the
Yeah.
stories within that. Yeah.
I think they're $13, and I was like, that sounds like a good price for those games. Okay,
I'm surprised.
Yeah, I picked up Man of Medan last time it was on sale.
I'm surprised they didn't jump out the way Until Dawn did. Until Dawn was a big release, and I feel like not a lot of people talk about the Dark Pictures stuff.
Yeah, it's true. The last couple have been very muted.
They're supposed to be good. I just don't hear anybody playing them.
Yeah.
I think it's because Until Dawn was such a fresh take on the horror genre. It was the first game really of
it was a telltale horror game, kind of.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think we can attest to it. What horror fans are present. I mean, it's a good story.
Until Dawn, it's fantastic.
It's I mean, it's a homage and a celebration of horror, but it's smart. It's not a throwaway horror game or premise. It's really well done. So
Until Dawn is the first game that I bought when I bought my PS4, and that was one of the reasons that I got the PS4 was that game. That was that and Friday the 13th. Because I was a backer for that on the Kickstarter, and I needed to have some kind of way. I couldn't play it on the PC because my computer was shit. So I bought the PS4, and I made sure that I got the copy for that.
Yeah.
Fair. All right, my good is the same as Dave's. It's Back 4 Blood. It's phenomenal. The game is pretty much Left 4 Dead, but with a card system, which makes it super unique. Every playthrough's different. You may reach the same level, but it's never the same. And I think
got a level where you don't find any fucking grenades. Yep. Oh baby!
let me buy all of these toolkits. Oh yeah, there's nothing to do with them. I'll just hold.
Or look, I bought 3 toolkits. Why are there toolkits everywhere? Why did I buy these? I could have just picked them up for free.
What I find amazing about this game is building the decks, which makes it some sort of we were talking about this on Saturday. It's like a roguelite because you have all these cards that you can pick from that enhance
they adjust your play style.
Yeah. And you can make multiple decks. So for different characters that you might play, I play as a medic because I like healing people, and I think it's fun if I remember to bring along bandages and stuff.
It's you play as a medic, but I'm the only one running around with first aid kits.
Yeah, just give it to me.
But it's not bad. It's because then you can drop them. He picks them up, right?
Yeah.
I play a character who can have more quick items, which are usually like the defib or the toolkits to open doors or go through doors that are like locked or alarmed. And I just tell everybody, don't bother taking those. Like, I've got it covered. And then you guys can carry like ammo packs and stuff like that. So all of a sudden, Eric can build it. Eric doesn't need to take extra ammo cards in his deck. He can just take an ammo pack. Like, there's team, like, you get to assign your role in the team. Synergy. But then it's also like, you know, my brother keeps going, well, I don't have that card yet. It's like, well, that's great, because that means you're gonna work towards it, something to work towards. And then once you have it, there's still more stuff to work towards. And then once you even, like, I don't even have all the cards, but once I have all the cards unlocked, it's still gonna be like, wait a minute, like, that's a cool combo. I haven't tried that yet. Or like, whatever. Like, there's now cards that like, I don't need ammo at all, or like I go pure melee or whatever. And then, you know, you can take that into PvP and just get your ass kicked.
Steve, I will say this for you, who has not had bought this game yet, or if you get Xbox Game Pass, and I think you should, because it's $1, there is a control maze level in Back 4 Blood. And you have to turn off your music or you're gonna get DMCA'd in that.
No. Nah, everybody's fine so far.
Yeah, I haven't gotten DMCA'd, so let's go.
I'll say one more thing about this game too, is that I'm the only one who bought, like, I bought the full retail. I actually bought the collector's edition or whatever, it's called, the ultimate edition, so I'm going to get all the DLC. The really cool thing about this game is once the DLC hits, the story DLC that is that only one person needs to have it for everybody to play it, as long as they're in the game, which is really nice. It's great. Like, you guys are all going to be on Game Pass or whatever. You pay like $12 a month, and I paid, you know, whatever, $150 or whatever it is for the game, and there's going to be more characters and more guns and stuff like that.
It's like Payday,
It's great, that you can jump in, because like when you play, like, I think of a game like Borderlands, where you're like, man, it's great. This game is great DLC, but you can't play it though, because I bought it, and so I have to do it alone. But like the fact that we can go through Back 4 Blood, it's like, hey, we get a whole other chapter or whatever, and I can bring everybody, because I'm playing this game with like 13 other people at this point. So I'm the town bicycle.
Not to draw out the Back 4 Blood discussion, because I've been sitting on it and I've been thinking about it, but. So the DLC is going to add extra characters and chapters, right? But like,
which are separate, but they're separate.
Okay. So like, if I actually just buy the base game, would I have access to the new characters if you're hosting? No. Okay. No. All right.
But I suspect you'll be able to, if you want, just buy a character. You won't have to buy like a DLC pack, right? Because I also don't think it's going to skew multiplayer potentially as well. Because new characters always kind of like change the meta of a game. And certain characters are like useless in multiplayer, and some are like really powerful. And like in the campaign, some are, you know, better than others, especially in the higher difficulties. So I suspect that they'll just release them individually as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
Cool. Nice.
That being said, you can get on Game Pass for $1.
Yeah.
Also,
I'll talk to you guys about that.
I did.
That's $1 Canadian too, right?
I'll buy that.
Really? For $1?
Yeah,
Canadian dollar.
Yeah, you're saving like 20 cents.
Shiny loony.
What's also great for all of our listener is that this is cross-platforms. You can play with PS4,
totally
PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series, whatever.
Yes, they're just Xbox Series. Yeah.
So it's for everyone, and it's phenomenal. It's a fun game. Like, it's stupid fun.
There's so much replayability. I mean, if you like the gameplay loop, if you liked Left 4 Dead, if you like Left 4 Dead 2, this game is just like a better version of those. Looks better, runs on a potato.
It literally runs on anything.
It runs,
except for a Mac.
Runs well too. He's got a PlayStation 4. You can get it on there.
That's true. We this is the week leading up to Halloween.
Not for $1.
So I'm gonna be streaming more, like my spooky. Like, I have a spooky setup with ghosts and stuff. Ooh. But I've been playing Back 4 Blood with David and occasionally Brent and Brittany. So definitely come back on our Twitch channel. We'll be playing it more often.
One of the neat things too is that I've got it activated. I don't think Eric has it yet, but I've got the overlay from Back 4 Blood. So you can if we get to certain points, you can vote on what cards you want me to take when we play. Nobody's been doing it yet. I don't have that activated. It doesn't take much. Honestly, it doesn't take much. Or you can just go through my deck and see see all my abilities and stuff like that. It's really cool.
I'll do it just to look at your deck.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway. Hey, quit staring at my deck, Eric.
I will. I look at it. It's so big.
Ew. I don't like that. No, that's my yuck.
I was gonna put news here, but we seem to have gone a little bit long on the thing. There's not much news. Brendan Fraser has joined the DC universe again. He's going to be the villain
Again.
of the Batgirl movie, which is going to be neat.
Oh, I thought it was the TV show he was joining.
Nope, it's the movie.
Oh, cool.
So he's
You know what news we didn't talk about last time? The announcement though was Will Poulter coming in as Adam Warlock in Guardians 3.
Yep. We didn't talk about that.
We did not discuss that last time.
I think that's good. Rumor has it that Brendan Fraser is going to be playing Firefly, which is, he's an
really?
interesting character, I guess. He shoots fire. He flies.
It'd be a lot funnier if he was
flies.
playing a mummy, like.
Well, he's already Robot Man, right? On
Yeah.
Maybe
Joel.
what, didn't they have that character from the old Batman TV series, King Tut?
Yeah, yeah, I remember him. Yeah.
Oh no.
That wasn't a racist caricature at all, I'm
Not
sure.
at all. So we're gonna be talking about Dune. Dune is what we're gonna talk about. The sleeper must wake. Like I said at the beginning of the show, Dune is the latest entry in Canadian director Denis Villeneuve's oeuvre. Having burst onto the scene with his 2013 film Enemy, then going on to direct Enemy, right, Hawk? No, Prisoners.
Right, Enemy 2, Prisoners.
I actually haven't seen Enemy. Is it good? Should I watch Enemy?
It is good.
Yeah.
All of his movies seem to be good.
All of his movies.
That's Jake Gyllenhaal, right? Enemy?
Yeah, Enemy. Same with
No,
Prisoners.
Was Gyllenhaal? I haven't seen Enemy either, so.
Yeah, he's in both, which is amazing.
Okay.
One was released earlier in 2013, and one was released at the end of 2013. The second one has Hugh Jackman, I believe, is in.
Yeah,
Prisoners.
Yeah.
It was Hugh Jackman.
Then he directed Sicario in 2015, Arrival in 2016.
Great movie. Oh my god.
And then Blade Runner 2049 in 2017. Then the years afterwards, he spent doing this, his magnum opus, apparently so far. The first of two planned movies, but not greenlit second movie. Part 1 primarily focuses on the first half of the book, set in 10,191. The film follows Paul Atreides as he and his family, the noble house Atreides, are thrust into a war for a dangerous desert planet called Arrakis. It's between the native,
Also known as Dune.
Dune. It's between the native Fremen people and the former rulers of Arrakis, the House Harkonnen.
Harkonnen.
I don't know.
It's-
I don't know why.
So here's the thing.
One joke, Barrick.
So in the 84 movie, they say Harkonnen.
Yeah.
But it should be pronounced Harkonnen. It's a lot of the names in Dune are from real names.
Yeah.
Frank Herbert went through a phone book and looked up this name. He's like, he looked up a Swedish phone book to find a cool name for the bad guys, and that's what he did. So it's Harkonnen. It's also, may I point out, the year is 10,191.
Yeah.
Not AD. That's like after they discovered FTL travel. So this is like probably 30,000 or 20,000 years in the future. It's not just like, it's way in the future.
I never really read any of the. We'll talk about our history with Dune in a second. Dune Part 1 stars Timothée Chalamet as Paul Atreides, Rebecca Ferguson as Lady Jessica, Zendaya as Chani, Oscar Isaac as Duke Leto, Jason Momoa as Duncan Idaho, Stellan Skarsgård as Baron Harkonnen. God damn it.
Harkonnen.
Stephen McKinley Henderson as Thurfer Hawat. Josh Brolin as Gurney Halleck, Javier Bardem as Stilgar, Sharon Duncan Brewster as Dr. Liet Kynes. That's a great gender change in the movie.
Yeah.
Chen Chang as Dr. Yue, Dave Bautista as Rabin. I'm gonna sneeze.
The Beast Rabin.
David Dasmalchian as Peter De Vries, and Charlotte Rampling as Reverend Mother Mohayim. There's obviously so many more people in this movie. Like the ensemble is phenomenal. Like I didn't even talk about the head of the house lady. Like she was great, and a bunch of other people.
Shout out Napes. Yeah.
They got like really good actors for roles that kind of didn't require. You know what I mean? Like, they're so small.
But that's what you want for like this type of grand space opera. I mean, that was the thing that Lynch managed to pull off too, right? Like every single role is like filled by like some.
Well, you think like why would, because like the Beast Rabban has like 2 lines in the book, right?
But
so you think like why would Dave Bautista take this role? And I'm like, well, if I could take
for it.
If I could take any role in Dune, I would take it, whatever the role was. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like you would want to be in Dune if you could.
Also, he could
he's
just
just
sit there and growl, and it'd be perfect.
And he does, and he's excellent.
No, he's used properly. Yeah.
So obviously we're going to break down this movie, but before we go into spoiler territory, I thought we'd do like a short history of what like how we know Dune, and like give a too long didn't read short review of Dune for people who are just like, I don't know if I should see it or not. I'm gonna start with Dave. Go, Dave, go.
Okay, so my history with Dune is when I was like, I guess 12 or 13, I took all my dad's VHS tapes, including like Alien, Predator, Blade Runner, and like that was like, I just downloaded all the sci-fi from the 70s and 80s directly into my brain over like a weekend. And Dune would happen to be one of them. And I knew it was a novel, but I didn't care. I was just like, whatever, this is sick, man. I'm like, this is an insane movie, man. And I loved it. I loved like every second, and I still love that movie. I think that was like one of the weirder cuts too, because we had like the final or the director's cut of Blade Runner and all this stuff. So, and then
it's very important.
And then I think 2 years ago was the first time I'd never read the book. I listened to the audiobook because, like my, I don't know what you like. Matt Colville's like the guy I like want to be when I grow up.
Yeah,
and he's read Dune every year for like 15 years. He worked on the RPG. He worked on the card game. So like I just watched that guy and I just download all that information. I haven't even read the wiki. So when I saw this movie, I have a ton of history when I saw it, and I enjoyed it. Time felt very slow as I watched this movie, and my buddy who came with me, he knew nothing about Dune. I don't even think he knew it was a book, and he also enjoyed it. So that's good. That's a good mind, because like,
yeah,
is it going to be? Yeah, because like you're so close to it. When you're so close to it, you're like, it's so easy to go like, I don't like that, I don't like that. But like this movie is, if nothing, it is gorgeous.
Yeah, I found myself when I was like getting really pulled into the film, like because it's so big. Like I watched it on the biggest screen I could. That's where I felt like time was like nothing. Like I was just floating in this movie. Like it's hard to like. It's so beautiful that you're just sort of stuck in like just the vistas. And
I had to pee from like maybe like 20 minutes in, and it's a 2.5 hour movie. So time, but I was like, I'm not leaving. And time was just like, fuck. It was just stretched, like Bilbo says, butter stretched over too much bread.
I feel
when you have to pee, time slows down.
It goes real slow. I was like checking my watch, and I'm like, how long was that scene? No, it's I liked it. Simple. I like the movie, and I think people should see it. I think it's a movie. I think it's Dune for the year 2021. I think this is the movie you would expect to see in this year of, this era of filmmaking. This is what we would expect to see, and we got that.
Nice. Hawk, history and TLDR.
So history, the 84 movie is my first introduction to it, and that I loved it as a kid and that, but again, started picking it apart as an adult, especially when I got more into David Lynch's work and that, and like, found out how much he hated like the whole process of actually having to make that movie. Read the book years later and that. I haven't picked it up again though, and that I only gave it the once through and that, but it's such a solid story in that, and my interest in the kind of franchise continued on, although I didn't really get into the TV movies very much when they came out in 2000. Loved we were discussing Jodorowsky's Dune and that, which was one of my favorite like documentaries ever, and that there you go. So short TLDR for this. Do I describe it or just?
Yeah, if you like a little one, because we're gonna go into depth, right?
Of course, but with this movie it was exactly what I was expecting. At the end, watching it, I was trying to think to myself, what other director could have done it at this point in time? And I really couldn't think of one, because like Villeneuve has been basically building up to this like throughout his entire career, and that's like the guy knows how to shoot landscapes like crazy. You see, like, remember in Sicario those great overhead shots of a helicopter going over the Mexican desert, or Arrival with a huge vista and seeing that shape and that, and like he's got this thing he knows how to show immense things on a screen, in a very realistic way, and he's great at blending practical and computer effects together in a way like a lot of people should be taking notes on.
I was listening to his interview on the CBC probably like 2 or 3 days ago, and he was talking about how a lot of those dream sequences with Zendaya, he did not plan for these shots, and then when they got to the desert, he was like, oh shit, I know what I'm gonna do, and he just did it on the whim. He just got her and was like, I'm gonna film like different shots of your arms and like just you looking off in the vista or turning around and shit. And he like
Beautiful close-ups on her face, you
like
know.
that's a guy. He said he got the book at 14, and he's been wanting to do it since then. He's now 54, 54ish. So 40 years to do his dream. That's amazing. But you're right.
Yeah.
His vistas are
Spectacular.
just good.
Yeah, I'm all good.
All right, Steve. History TLDR.
Oh dear. I've had a lot of whiskey. So my friend from across the street, who likes to bug me, he dragged me into his place to watch Dune, and he was a Dune fan, so he'd read it all. So he was able to stop and explain all the ASMR voiceovers in the original 1984 Dune, so I could appreciate the scope and the setting, which obviously doesn't totally come across in 1984. But I will say, in all the years since, it's a movie that left an impression on me, and I quote it constantly. And even with 1984, you could tell, even though the movie, like, as much as I'm a fan of it, it's not a good movie, doesn't work, but you could tell there was something there. And that's why it's a cult movie, right? It's a cult movie because you could tell that there was something behind it, driving it.
It's not, like parts of it are right. You know what I mean? Like parts of it.
Yeah. Lynch was the right director in that he could do prophecy and dream really well. I mean, that's some of the things that he's very good at, subconscious, cerebral things, right? But we might get into it a little bit later. There were a lot of decisions that were made to make it more mainstream, and anyway. So it's an exquisite failure. In any case, the movie followed me, and then I got really excited for the Dune 2000 TV series. And yeah, I've always been a fan of Dune, and it's funny that I'll be the first to bring it up, but I played the Dune video game, which was then followed by Dune 2, which was the grandfather of RTS, I believe, and all the iterations of that followed. So I just love Dune. I've got the video game soundtracks and all that sort of thing, and of course, because for a whole year and a half I've been going on about Warhammer 40K. I'm absolutely aware that Warhammer 40K owes almost its entire existence to Dune. So of course, yes, I appreciate that Herbert managed to create a setting that envisioned things that were, really expansive and just super far into the future, and families and all these sorts of political things. So yeah, so Dune has been a big movie. So getting to the movie, only just saw it on Saturday, and I want to give it a few days because, as a few of us are very close to Dune and can appreciate that, want to be careful with our opinions. I have to say, though, one of the things that I've been thinking, since we're just doing the TLDR, is as I was watching it, I was like, is this the 2001 of our generation? Because the movie, like, this is the thing, right? I'm too close to the subject matter, so I don't want to declare something like that. But I feel that this is a movie, regardless of how it does, will have an impact on cinema. And for those who see it, will be impacted by it. So my tilder is, you should see the film on an IMAX if possible. Don't bother with fucking 3D. Don't worry about that.
3D was pretty good, actually.
Okay.
Yeah,
well,
it was pretty good.
I saw it on IMAX, and I really liked it on IMAX. I don't know. Okay, so ignore what I just said about 3D. I just think
it's fine.
IMAX was amazing, though, because Villeneuve really took advantage of the wider screen for everything that was shot, like in terms of scenery, and the sound, of course, is like, the score and everything is crazy.
It's the loudest movie I've ever been to.
Yes. Do be careful of that. I've seen a lot of comments with people having headaches and things like that, but I will say the IMAX presentation was excellent. And yeah, even if you don't like this film, I think it is, I don't want to declare it, but I do kind of feel it is a moment in cinematic history. It is, at the very least, a movie to experience. So try to experience it the way it's meant to be.
Nice.
That's my
I like
word.
it. Steve, just to go off your Dune 2 video game thing, did you know you can play that online in a browser?
I just found out. I haven't done it yet.
Yeah.
I looked it up. After the movie, I went home and I looked it up. I was like, can I play Dune 2000 or Dune 2 somehow? And yeah, it's a kind of abandonware project that like obviously the community has built. So there is a way, and I'm going to look into it. And I probably will stream it.
For sure.
So yeah.
All right, Shouse, you're next.
Okay, so for me, this was pretty cool because my history with Dune is non-existent. I have
We have
no
two of them. Two of them
background
over here.
knowledge. Yeah, I have none.
Heretics.
And to come into something that, and I agree with Steve 100%. Like this was huge for me. Like just watching this movie blew my mind. And to come into it completely fresh, knowing nothing about the story, never seeing any of the story before, never reading the book, and going into it and seeing like a Lord of the Rings style movie or like a Star Wars, when everyone else already sort of knows something about it or already has their opinions and their feelings on it. It was incredible, and I had an amazing time just sort of getting soaked into the story, the narrative, the characters. I had no idea what to expect, what it was about. I knew there was going to be some big worms. I didn't know much else of what to expect, but it was gorgeous. It was a beautiful, beautiful movie. And I've only seen it once so far, but I definitely want to see it again because I feel like there was so much going on that I just want to appreciate all of those little moments in that film. But yeah, that's my TLDR. Like for somebody coming in fresh, it's quite the experience.
This makes me excited because we were talking about it like before we started this episode. We're like, we hope we have people that don't know anything about Dune, and now we have two. Speaking of two, Brent.
Yeah, like my experience with this with Dune goes all the way back to 4:30 this afternoon when I first sat down to watch this movie. I've never seen anything Dune related before. I didn't even know the story. I knew nothing going into this. I didn't even know about the worms. I mean, like it's the only thing I knew about it going in was the cast of the movie.
Make it sound like the worms are like this really big plot point, though, right? Where it's like, well, you gotta listen. If you don't know Dune, you gotta know about the worms.
Right. Well, I wanted to know who was playing the worm.
He brought up the worms. I'm making a counterpoint to the. I'm adding to the.
It was good casting, Shouse. It was very good casting.
Yeah, they did a great job.
I assume D. Bradley Baker did the sounds. I don't know. Sorry, Brent. Continue.
So going into it, I mean, I'm coming in with absolute fresh eyes. I know nothing about the story or anything like that. And I'm probably not gonna swoon over it as much as far as like how grandiose it was and everything like that. I mean, like I see the comparisons that people would make if you're coming into it fresh, being like the first time you watch Star Wars, but I don't feel like I was behind the eight ball on Star Wars. Like when I saw that, no one really in my world was talking about it at the time. So coming into this, it is a little bit of a different experience where everyone is talking about it and everybody is gushing about it, and I'm seeing it for the first time. And it didn't it's not pulling me in the way that it did with you guys. But as far as like an actual like movie experience, and a cinematic experience, it was absolutely beautiful. And it's one of those few movies where like I probably at one point looked down at my watch to see like, okay, so how long is the movie? How far into it am I? I've probably got about an hour and a half to go. And I'm like, holy shit, there's only 15 minutes left. Like that, it literally just flew by.
Yeah. You didn't have to
like
pee,
that to me is like, I did have to get up and go have dinner midway through the movie though. But no, that's the sign of a good movie for me is the fact that like, if it's a 2.5 hour movie and it feels like 20 minutes, I'm like, got me hooked. So
that's awesome. So I'm gonna do mine. My history with it, I saw 84 when I was way too young and it scared me, and I don't really remember it. So I don't think I ever finished it when I was a little kid. I did end up getting the book when I was like 13 or 14. Wait, this is a 1990 cover, so I probably got it a little bit afterwards. I got it, from our library.
Let's see the cover. I think I got that copy.
This one.
Yeah,
it's very
that's the one
popular one.
Yeah, I have that one too.
I got it probably like early 90s. So I read it and I thought it was phenomenal. I didn't go back to the movie because it was harder to find movies back then. You had to go to like a Jumbo Video or something, and my parents weren't gonna get me Dune. Blockbuster or whatnot. That's Entertainment in St. Catharines. But nice. We ended up when I got to university in 2000, that's when the miniseries came out, and I just fucking gobbled it up, and I loved it. I loved the sci-fi miniseries. I thought that 3-part series, and then later on Children of Dune a couple years later, were really good. I've only read a couple of the books, the first 3, which is pretty much Dune and Children of Dune put together, like those 2 miniseries.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of the history and stuff just out of reading so much about it. I really want to read the other books. I just haven't had a chance. I did listen to the 2006 audiobook that Dave had talked
Did
about.
you? Okay, you said okay. So when you say other books, you mean like the
sequels,
the trilogy, or like the 7, or no, Herbert did 6.
Anything after the 3rd book, I didn't read
because I read the prequels that Kevin J. Anderson and Brian Herbert, I think the oldest son, did, and I loved them. Those are like some good like sci-fi.
I heard that, and I think
kind of rough. I don't know.
I think I have audiobooks of them, but I will check them out eventually. I've read a lot about it, obviously, but I loved it. Talking about this film, I think it's phenomenal. There are 3 films in my life right now that I can, like, you listen to people talk about them seeing Star Wars in 1977 for the first time, and my first time feeling that way was The Matrix.
Paw Patrol the movie.
Paw Patrol the movie is really good. It's actually really good. But in 1999, when I saw The Matrix, it sort of blew my mind, like being in that group and seeing that experience for the first time. And then like a year or 2 later, you saw Fellowship of the Ring. And again, it was like these 2 movie experiences were something that I'll remember forever because it changed cinema for me. And it changed cinema for a lot of people. And it actually just changed cinema for the whole industry. And then now we have Dune. And it's the same feeling I got when I saw those 2 films. And nothing really compares in between. Definitely go see this on the biggest and loudest screen. Maybe not the loudest screen, but definitely the biggest screen.
Depending on your ears, but the biggest screen, I agree.
It's super loud. And I've watched it 2 or 3 times since I initially saw it on Thursday. And watching it with subtitles is way easier.
It's interesting.
Because there's a lot. Yeah. The sound design is phenomenal, but there's a lot of overlapping audio. So you miss different things that are being said, especially in visions that you see in that the characters see in the film. All right.
This is also a movie. The more you watch it, the more you will pick up.
Yes.
Yeah, it's very loaded, and even with the subtitles, which is nice to have. One minor detail is the subtitles will actually indicate what language, because there are many languages in the film, and those are subtle details which you'll pick up on using subtitles. So
yeah, so let's break this down. It's not spoiler territory yet because we're just going to talk about some art design, sound design, the visual influences, and definitely the music of Hans Zimmer. Let's talk about the visual designs of the film, like how the film looked, like the art design and stuff, all the ships and all the way it was shot. Who wants to jump into it? I know Hawk, you're looking to
go for Hawk.
I was surprised how much I compared this movie visually to the 84 version in that, in terms of like a lot of set and costume design, like the still suits and that. I think they really, like, the 84 version really influenced the design of those.
Do you like the new still suits? Because I don't.
I do.
I'm okay with them.
The gloves they wear are just like off the shelf Oakley gloves, and I'm like, that drives me insane.
I didn't notice that though.
I have a pair of those.
I want
I'm like, I don't like that because like they're supposed, like, not spoiler, storyline wise though, those are custom made, custom fitted to people.
Yeah.
Like it shouldn't just be like, just take a glove, put it on. No. Like, and I'm sure they spent a lot of friggin' money on that stuff, but like that, and I saw it in the trailer. And I'm like, oh, that irked me so much when it was just like, here's an off the shelf thing.
It's like seeing like a Gillette razor as a communication device. Yeah. But
because like they're cool-ish, but like I think the 84 ones like actually fit the setting better, and they, I don't know, maybe they're not as cool, but I don't know.
Do you want to continue, Hawk? On any of that? You seem sort of stunned at this. He doesn't like the gloves.
Yeah.
We're nerds. The Oakley reference. I was like,
we need some controversy in this episode.
I need to see what these gloves look like because I sort of want a pair now.
I'll get them, but that's the maddest thing I am about anything.
That's it. Okay.
Yeah.
As far as everything else, it was the way they the ship design and that. And I know like the Jodorowsky Dune is probably like a big influence on that, but
Yeah.
like seeing it on screen and that, like how like one bigger ship in that is like housing smaller ships in that for long interdimensional travel and that, and then like just like seeing them like hit the atmosphere of a planet, and then like, you know, do those dead drops like in the battle in that on Arrakis.
The I liked how different houses had different looking ships. They weren't all just like generic. I like very much how the Harkonnen. Oh my god, I keep on saying
Harkonnen.
Just say it the old way. Say it the old way.
This is a Harkonnen animal.
The Harkonnen designs were very like everything with them, like the designs of the characters, their ships, the planet that they're on, very much look like H.R. Geiger's work, which is what Jodorowsky's doing.
I'll go into that.
Very designed. Like
the Spacing Guild was always like the BDSM goth group, right? And they're the ones that actually send people through space. Whereas everyone else, you think it would be like a personal style.
Yeah.
Like, of course, like the people, like, you know, they say air power and sea power, right, on Caladan. Well, that's going to look different than Gadi Prime, which is it's a different planet. Yeah, it should be different.
So my question is then, so when we're on like the planet of you guys are going to have to fill me in on the name.
Which
we're on the desert planet.
That's Arrakis.
Arrakis.
Dune.
Thank
You can just say Dune.
Desert
okay.
planet.
Now is that like all of the structures that are built because that was originally like the Harkonnen were mining there? Are those because like the thing that I loved the most was like, you know, we're talking about the set design and that was the architecture of the buildings and the ships on that planet, because they're all very like Egyptian pyramid-like, which fits perfectly on a desert planet. Even the
which is weird because when the pyramids were built, Egypt wasn't a desert.
David, why do you have to complicate this? Okay,
who invited him?
David, it's not just that. I get
Eric did
like
2 years ago.
It's not just the pyramid design, but it also like how it's adorned with iconography from around the planet and that. Like there's this like kind of a gold looking like, you know, headpiece and that's, you know, paying homage to the sandworms and that. It's just like, you know, it was
I mean, it makes sense. I mean, you're on a planet. There's dust storms. Even in the protected area, you have plenty of dust. Like we know what dust does to stuff, constantly wearing it down.
And I think
so you build it out of big,
right?
thick stone. Yeah. Pyramids, of course, make sense. They're the most. That's how you stack things easily, right? Like
the height. Yeah, I noticed that.
Even even like the carrying.
Yeah,
but even like the carrying ships that they had that were like destroyed during the battle, and that like even they have like that kind of iconography to them. Like they have that stone design to them, and it's almost like every planet has their own individual look, and I love that about it.
At some point, we'll probably talk about Jodorowsky's Dune a bit, but he specifically hired artists to handle specific factions, you know, and I feel like that maybe that was something that did get translated into the current Dune. And I mean, David can correct me on this because I think he probably will.
He will.
The rights to harvest spice and provide it to the Empire is a contract. It's a CHOAM contract, which is
the CHOAM company.
Something that is outside of the scope of the film, but it's part of the universe.
But it's a thing to keep people. It's to keep things in balance, because if one person gets too rich, then the movie happens. That's what happens. Is somebody got too rich.
Yeah, so the Emperor gets to assign a particular house a particular length of contract, and it's supposed to be 100 years. Okay, and that's how they keep balance, because everybody gets a turn, basically, right?
Yeah. So the great houses, I think, get a turn. Maybe not the lower houses. Yeah.
So so that's a very good question, Brent. No, that actually should not be Harkonnen architecture. That should have been stuff that had been established on the planet through this whole process of assigning.
Like I thought
whatever.
One of the cool things about Dune, just like the universe in general, is how lived in it is. It's kind of like Star Wars, where like you get to points like, hey, this is like old tech. Like, what the hell are we doing? Like, this is, you know, we're getting left with garbage. We need good stuff. And as that planet would have changed hands, you would have people being like, okay, we need to upgrade. Like, we can't, this is a 100-year-old spaceship. Fuck, we need to get in some new spaceships in here. That's going to cost us some fucking money.
So it's going to be a bit piecemeal. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
And just like
they talked about the trees, right? That was something that Off-Worlders brought in, right? And in the other versions of Dune or in the books, they mentioned like there's a garden that Off-Worlders created, right? Obviously, a ridiculous expenditure of water, right? Like for no purpose other than to have a piece of home, right? But that's part of it, is that all the people who rule Dune are actually transients. They're never people from Dune. They're always people assigned to Dune.
Yeah, the
So
Fremen are the actual like indigenous people to do, and you have to remember too that like this is humanity. Like there's no aliens in Dune; it's all humans, which is not something they say in the movie. But you don't see any aliens. I don't know if that's a spoiler, but like there's no aliens. There's plenty of sci-fi things where there's no aliens, right?
But
Go ahead.
The interesting thing about how the way he shot like a lot of these characters in this film, and that like you can really easily identify like where each like family is from, and that based on their look, and that the Harkonnens, they look completely different from like the people of Caladan and that, and same with the Sardaukar and that they look.
I think that comes from the fact that this is supposed to be a feudal society, which is not told to us. It's kind of shown, and in a feudal society, like you have like what he says at one point, he's like at the beginning of the movie, it's not a spoiler, it's like, hey, you gotta be dressed, and he's like, oh man, I gotta wear formal. She's like, no, ceremonial. Like that's gonna look different if you're are you Bavarian, or are you Moldavian, or are you whatever part of the Holy Roman Empire you're in, you're gonna wear something different to represent your people. And it's the same thing in Dune. It's like they have different outfits. They might even have, because it's also like it's not just like a culture of like a house. You're talking about the culture of a planet interacting with the culture of a
world.
Like we have how many different cultures on Earth?
Yeah.
And it's one planet. So you imagine like how many different cultures are going to be on thousands of planets?
Yeah.
Thousands of years in the future?
This was one of the reasons why I think Dune had a big impact on me. This is sort of adding to what I was saying before, was the whole concept of entire worlds that were built around a particular philosophy or political element.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the reason why I like Dark Side from like DC, for instance, right? Like Apocalypse, like the concept of a whole world built around like this cult of personality. But Dune did it first, right? I mean, Giedi Prime. Yeah, obviously we look at that and we say, oh, it's kind of gross and evil.
It's the bad guys must be bad. It's dark there. And it's
just
wet.
a different political philosophy, right? And this is one of the things that I like about Dune that's not necessarily for everybody, but in the book, what I draw from it is the political sort of elements of the Atreides philosophy to life and nobility versus the Harkonnen sort of pragmatic
exploitation
of power, right?
And resources, right?
And that's the thing, like, and I mean, one comment I'll just make early is I really like the way the Baron was portrayed in this movie, because in the 84 version they made him into kind of a cartoon supervillain. Like he was just this gross, like laughing.
He kind of is in the book though too, right?
Yeah.
To be fair though, he
monologues in the book.
But he monologues in a way that's intelligent and conniving, right? Which is more in tune with Stellan Skarsgård version, right? Because that was the thing that I was going to say is the Harkonnen, as grim and as dark and as brutal as they are, they're purposeful. They're not just doing it to be evil. They truly believe in the right to power, right? And that was the thing that I liked. That 84, it's very entertaining because the guy does a really good job. Okay,
yeah.
But that's, to me, I feel that the TV series Harkonnen guy was much more well spoken, and I feel that is actually a little closer because I feel that the Baron Harkonnen is not a maniac. He's very cunning.
He's incredibly intelligent.
So he's not just this gross monster, right? Like he's very thoughtful, because that's just the world he grew up on. Anyway, so we're gonna bring it back. My point is, Brent, or bring it all the way back to Brent. Yeah, I really like the
comes back
architecture. Yeah, I really like the architecture, especially that point when like Leto was like looking through like like the peephole and seeing like the flashing communication and stuff like that. Like these are things that would happen in a desert castle, right? Like something where like the daytime is too hot, right? Like just those little details I really liked about like the architecture.
I want to go back off the architecture, because if we look at House Atreides, and Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that house is descended from Greeks, right? They're supposed to be from Agamemnon. Is that right?
Yeah, weirdly they didn't mention that because it's like a big thing, but they specifically draw their lineage back to Agamemnon, which is the house of Atreus, which is why they're called Atreides or Atreides. And that's why like it's sort of weird when you look at casting. Sometimes you're like, why is Kyle MacLachlan like great? I loved him as Paul, but like this is a Mediterranean family,
olive skinned. Yeah,
that's
like, why, Oscar Isaac is great casting, perfect casting, and then you're like, Oh, I don't know if Timothy Chalamet, like
But
because
you
Timothy
get-
Chalamet looks
It's okay.
like,
But you get
he
Rebecca
looks like he
Ferguson,
could be
right?
their
She's super
kid.
pale.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, I'm saying
Mixing
he
them
looks like
together.
he could be their kid. But when Paul's described, he's got green eyes. He's got you
Yeah.
know like a darker
Sure.
skin. The hair is right. The hair is dead
So
on.
for those who know Dune, we should maybe keep spoilers in
Okay, yeah,
regards
yeah,
to
we'll keep it.
lineage regarding Ferguson and Chalamet.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's just
So-
leave that out. Okay.
So let's talk about so we talked about a lot of the art design, all those shows. I don't know if you wanted to jump in there before we move on to maybe sound design and music.
You mean specifically
The art design and how everything is
What you
the
liked.
world. Like
is now like a good time to mention, like you had put it in the notes about like practical filming locations, which I think really made a
yeah,
difference.
Go for it, man. Yeah.
For sure.
Right? Like everything nowadays is filmed in front of a green screen, right? Like everything. And you know, it takes us back to like an older time in cinema where you would go to a practical location and film, and it did not like everything looked so realistic because of how they filmed it. And I remember looking at some of the like I follow Jason Momoa on Instagram, and he posts
Who
a bunch of
doesn't?
like behind the scenes kind of pictures. And he posts a bunch of behind the scenes pictures of some of the cast just sort of hanging out and stuff, like out in the desert. And it's like, yeah, they're out in the desert, they're making a movie, you know, and they're there, they're in the heat, and so it kind of brings that the acting to life a little bit more too. When they're actually experiencing the dust, they're experiencing the heat, and so like as part of that sort of visual design of the movie, I think that plays an important role in the way that they made everything look.
Yeah, they had 3 main shooting locations. For the Caladan, they shot in Norway, which
Right.
gorgeous vistas and
Presumably in summer, it seemed, right? Like
Yeah.
maybe fall, but definitely not winter. Like it
No.
was all
No.
green, which
It
is
was-
Caladan.
yeah.
Caladan's a green planet,
Yeah.
right? Like
and then for Arrakis, because they needed both sand and rocky type desert, they did Abu Dhabi and Jordan as their main shooting locations for those 2. And God, it looks perfect. I'm gonna bring this back to Star Wars, but Ewan McGregor was saying how like for the prequel films they shot a lot of it against green screen, and it was a
Yeah.
detriment to a lot.
A
of the
lot?
actors. Most of it. To the detriment of the actors, right? But he's shooting
Just a
the
bunch of
Obi-Wan.
corridors.
He's shooting the Obi-Wan film right now, and they're doing it way more like the Mandalorian,
Oh,
where they're
good.
doing actual locations
volume?
or the volume. So
I could see Dune being done on the volume, and that would probably work really well as well.
I
right?
think he likes flying places.
Oh, sure. I
Yeah.
mean, why not?
Denny. Yeah, but yeah, I agree with Shows. Like everything, because it's there, it helps the actors way better. Rebecca Ferguson talked about how moving to these places was just jaw dropping and really like
Mhm.
you know help them, especially when they're shooting the sand, the worm. I know I can hear you. The worm scenes. Like she'd just be like, yeah, this area is amazing.
I think I would compare the kind of vistas they do in this to the Lord of the Rings, like the Peter Jackson film, where it's just like, let's get the actors out there, let's get a helicopter,
Yeah.
let's get some amazing shots. And I think a lot of the shots where there aren't actors is the only time we get CGI, right? When you just see a spaceship, of course it's CGI. They didn't send us a camera into space, right?
But he would have.
Well,
if
not
he
with that
could.
attitude.
He probably
Yeah,
could.
it would've, yeah.
But are you sure?
But like, and then like dust, you know, like it's a desert planet. There's dust. Like I'm sure a lot of that CGI, like especially when there's again no actors on screen, because there's plenty of shots of spaceships because it's a sci-fi movie. It's cool. And it looks so good. It looks. I said on Twitter, I'm like, this makes me want to go to an art gallery for Dune.
Yep.
Because somebody
Fair enough,
made
yeah.
like not just like the beautiful, obviously photographs they've made, but also the idea like someone made art. Like people also forget like CGI is like artists make this stuff. And
You could buy
the
a
art-
coffee table book.
When
Oh my
you get the
God.
right guys, yes, yeah, I absolutely agree with that point, and not to be sort of, Stevie about it. Yeah, no, this is a movie where they got the appropriate people who really cared about what they were doing, and so I just wanted to add a fun point to something that Shaz was saying. Just as a reference to the 1984, it's kind of funny, but there are some accounts that Patrick Stewart, who was in the 1984 Dune, as Gurney Halleck,
it's my
his
gurney.
quotes of doing that project was, of course, because it's Patrick Stewart. he loved the experience of being brought out into the desert, like this whole, like, yes, this is amazing, like just to be there, to actually be part of that experience. And Sting, who is a character who has not been introduced into the new Dune yet, absolutely hated it because, sand gets in all the places and stuff. Yeah, it's actually really funny that
of
Sting
course,
was really
and
upset.
rough.
Of course, and rough. But he actually so go ahead.
And Sting is a prick, so
yeah.
Well, it's good because he played a prick in the '84 movie.
Yeah. Which I just have to say,
he's great casting.
Great casting. Like Patrick Stewart and Sting for those two particular characters. That's amazing. But yes, yeah, absolutely. I think the on-site location shooting, especially with Caladan and I mean, I guess I'll probably bring this up a bit more. Having watched the 2000 TV series and grown up on 84, it's very interesting to compare and contrast the emphasis and what was shot, as to how to develop the story. And they spent a lot more time on Caladan. I think that was very useful, and especially shooting in Norway. Was it that you said?
Norway,
yeah. I think that was really good to set that as a sort of a homeland.
It makes me want to go to Norway. It's very pretty.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I actually thought it was Iceland originally because it was, but that makes sense.
Yeah. What was I gonna say? We should definitely talk about the sound design and the music of Hans Zimmer. They're sort of hand in hand.
Music was so good.
But I'm gonna be honest. The last couple, I want to say since Dark Knight, his loud droning noise really bothered me in trailers that we heard. That was very prevalent.
I don't think it's his fault it's in the trailer though, right? Like he just makes the music and then
they got reused over and over again. But that's not saying that I don't like Hans Zimmer. I think he's
one of the best.
He's amazing. And if you haven't seen his 2017 live concert on Blu-ray, it's phenomenal. Phenomenal.
Oh wow.
His music is so good in this movie, and the design that he just integrating with the sound design, like the sound effects, especially the Gom Jabbar scene, like is probably one of my favorite. I love that scene anyway, but seeing that on the big screen and with that music and that sound design, like just I was sitting there so giddy. I was on the edge of my seat because that's the feeling you get in that scene.
I am going to overly gush over the battle music that he created for this. The mixture of like the heavy bass beats beating down with like the very Scottish feel to the music with the bagpipes coming in, and it was just like unbelievable, that mixture.
Yeah,
and the choral music too, like the vocals that they would add into a lot of the songs.
Yeah, he talked about how he was mixing different ethnic cultures, and you can hear a lot of the differences in, especially once you get to Arrakis. Like he wanted to use a lot of Middle Eastern influences in the music and sound design, and like it's there. You can definitely hear it and see it. You can't see the sound design. I don't know why I said that.
I can. I don't know what you're talking about.
Hawk, I know you're a really big Sound of Music person.
Oh, sorry, I was just looking up some stuff. Yeah, I know a lot of people, got kind of sick of the droning noise and that, but for some reason it seemed perfect in that, especially in considering these massive ships and flight and intergalactic flight and that, and the fact that if I'm correct in that, Hans Zimmer got really into modular synthesis and that when he was designing that particular noise, which it was always kind of appealing to me.
I'll say something, because this movie does have a lot of very quiet scenes, and I would like if in the space scenes there was no droning, it was just silent. And I think that would I was just watching somebody talk about The Thing, and you know how in The Thing you near the end of the movie it goes dun dun, and you realize there hasn't been music for 60 minutes of this movie. I feel like The Thing, and I mean, I guess this is an aesthetic choice. This is my opinion. This is an opinion.
Yeah, it's a minimalist approach. Yeah,
right. It's man, you could really drive home some stuff with that, and they didn't. They wanted to keep their sound, and I mean, that's fine. But I think
there was a part in the movie where they did, and I'm going to try to avoid spoilers here, but there was a one-on-one kind of fight near the end of the movie where I noticed they completely removed music.
Yep,
completely, and these two characters are fighting. it actually made it seem more intense because it wasn't like,
That's good because I have
overshadowed with
opinions
all
on
these
why
things.
it's not intense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, conflict.
conflict is good.
I mean, this is what but it is. Yeah, he's right though. Like that is it does
That
heighten
was
the
the
scene.
choice.
Mhm.
Yeah,
That was the
I
And
mean,
we get
this
so
is all
used to
choices.
hearing music in those types of scenes, right? And then when you take it away,
Yeah.
it's like, hold on, now I'm noticing something I don't normally notice.
Could someone do me a favor on the internet and go ahead and take that scene and put the Star Trek battle music between Kirk and Thorne?
Please.
It would just be phenomenal.
Phil,
Oh my
this-
god! I wonder if somebody's done it for the '84 film. That'd be amazing. I
I
will
am-
kill him.
I'm
You
sure
can't ask the
someone-
internet to do that because all the internet's going to do is add the Benny Hill theme to it.
That's
Oh,
fine.
That would be
no.
hilarious.
Okay.
Just sandworms going. Dun, 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 dun.
Oh my god! All right, so
Steve,
before I
yeah.
forget what I was going to say, holy crap!
Steve thought we were going to stay serious because it's Dune.
Music,
Yes, Dune is
sound
very
design.
serious business. Yeah, I was gonna say I found out that Zimmer that did not actually listen to any of other previous stuff. I guess when he was designing his own, but I find it kind of interesting because I felt when I was listening to it there were some hints of the Eno like elements, but I think it's probably because they were both going for this Middle Eastern sort of attempt.
And I thought it was
might
more
have-
of the 2000 one than the 1984 one.
Sure. No, 2000 has a great soundtrack.
Yeah.
For all if we say anything about the 2000 TV series, which has
phenomenal.
flaws, it has very good music. It has very good music. So
Yeah.
I was wondering about that because there were some things. I mean, when we get to the visuals, actually, I guess we already talked about
We
it.
did.
I was going to say the still suits. I feel like possibly were an homage to Lynch's, but in particular, this was a weird little detail. This may be just me, and I don't know if it's true or not. But Jodorowsky, famously, if you watch the movie, but this is not a spoiler, he was able to bring H.R. Geiger into his fold for
I
his
said that
potential.
earlier.
Yes, I know. But just to underline that detail, he was the one who brought H.R. Geiger into film because up until that point, H.R. Geiger had actually just been doing his weird shit, and just having fun with making furniture and whatever. And he was not involved in films. So Jodorowsky totally seduced him into designing specifically the Harkonnen look of the movie for his version. And Jodorowsky had designed some of the designs might have actually existed even into the Lynch version, but one of them was the capital of Giedi Prime, the home planet of Harkonnen, which was literally just a giant statue of the Baron, just this giant like bulbous building with like a head on it and arms on the side, and like the mouth would have had like a tongue that rolled out as like a landing
Didn't
pad.
it
Just
also go over? Like, didn't the jaw come out?
totally grotesque, ridiculous thing. Okay, but like so awesome, right? But the thing is, the building in Giedi Prime, which they only show for 3 seconds, is this like orb, and I couldn't help but thinking, is that actually a reference to that or not? Like, I don't know. Like, I'm just connecting.
I think it's just that spheres are such efficient shapes, and the Harkonnens are all about efficiency, right?
Well, that's just it, right? Like, either we
In
can
all its
argue
worst
whether or not
forms.
just spheres in general are like the best sort of shape, or it could have been a coincidence. But I couldn't help but kind of think that because even the long shot of it had kind of like spine-like looking elements, like moving towards the horizon, So I don't know. I'm probably attaching some things to it. Anyway, what the hell was I talking about? Yeah, the music. I thought the music had some Middle Eastern tones, which
No, for sure.
I had
You
originally
have
thought.
to. It's an inherently like we're led to in the book, in the movies. We know the Fremen are like the descendants of an Arabic culture, right? Like that is 100%. Their religion is based somewhat around a form of Islam that obviously it's evolved. That's the cool thing about Dune is they've got different religions, but they've evolved together, and that's something that don't talk about in the movie. But like how like the religions are affected.
We'll probably get into it in the next film.
And like it makes sense. You're a desert culture. You're going to adapt. You're humans. You're going to adapt. Who's lived in the desert the longest, right? Like we have the Bedouin people. So like. Like even if you just took like any other ethnic group and put them there, eventually if they're gonna adapt, they're gonna become like that, right? They're gonna become like those people.
And so I found it very interesting, and Eric can confirm this, that all 3 films, whether they were related or referencing each other or not, really like drew that essence. Yeah, really pulled that element out in their music. So,
What was great? Sorry, Hawk, do you want to go?
So Yeah, regarding the religious Middle Eastern element in that, I think it's more specifically the Qawwali music that comes out of the Middle East. And that it's like very devout, very religious music in that, but also it's like it's really phenomenal because like the singers that perform it in that have mastered this like technique of like circular breathing in that, so that they can carry these like big notes and do these huge like kind of scales up and down in that for like what can be sometimes like hours.
Well,
Wow.
what, Dave? Sorry, my brain is tired. What are the name of the Emperor's blades? God, what are they called?
The Emperor's blades. What do you mean?
the
The Sardaukar.
Sardaukar.
Yeah.
Sardaukar.
Yeah.
Sardaukar. So I'm gonna go to the music in that sequence because
Oh, sure.
a
yeah,
lot of that
yeah.
was like we see three distinct cultures so far. We saw the Fremens, we saw them. The Harkonnens don't really have their own music, which is sort of they have a weird mixture of
It's
stuff.
kind of quieter, which I like. It's a little more like it's just quiet. It's menacing.
And then House Atreides has Scottish, which is weird because
Yeah,
it's sort
It
of-
is very weird, but
Great.
maybe because Gurney Halleck might specifically just be like a
That's
Scottish name, and that's
Yeah.
why like that happened. It's just one of those things where it's like, even though
it was a decision.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I think
liked it.
What's great
I
is
like
that
it.
each of these cultures have different music, and then when we start seeing them fight, like you get the mismatch of the different genres together, and
Yeah.
it still works perfectly, which is the genius of Hans Zimmer. There's a
Yeah.
fight later through a vision where we see I don't want to ruin it, but you hear both the Middle Eastern influences and the bagpipes together, which is something I would not expect to work.
Yeah.
And it
yeah,
works
So-
perfectly.
really.
It does.
I think what happened, because I just Googled Spanish bagpipes, and it's a thing in northern Spain, and that's
Okay.
kind of the region that the
Interesting.
right, because they're supposed to
Yeah.
descend from Agamemnon, but they're like the bullfighting thing, which is in the book. It's in the
Yeah.
movie. It's in the book. They mentioned
Yeah,
the
that is
bullfighting.
part of the history.
They are like a Spanish kind. That's why they're supposed to have like that kind of olive skin stuff.
Yeah.
The Atreides are more or less a Mediterranean family, and that
Yes.
includes
Yeah.
apparently bagpipes in
Well,
Cantabria,
Yeah.
Galicia, and Asturias.
10-191. I mean, anything's possible.
we should definitely go into spoiler territory now because we have a lot to talk about, and I don't want to talk for 2 hours like we did for Midnight Mass. So
yeah, so go
Oh,
see it.
The
I
3
like-
hours midnight mass.
Line Master, we're gonna jump into
Yeah.
spoiler territory. Sorry.
Watch
Hold on, you're not
book.
on. Say it now.
Okay, read the book. Don't read the book first. Don't but if you like this, if you like any part, read the book. Holy shit, read the book, because this book will break your brain and change the way you look at everything else in sci-fi and politics and family and all kinds of
Well, I
stuff.
don't want that.
Defy David and say, yes, read the Frank Herbert books. I'm a purist of
Just
the
read
old
Dune.
era.
Don't even read
Just
the
read
sequels. Don't even read the sequels. Just read Dune, because the second book is fucking batshit crazy, and the third
It's
book
so
goes,
weird.
the third
is
book goes back
true.
to being more like Dune.
Yeah.
But
This is true. Do not expect an exciting space opera, but do look for something which is just really imaginative, and you'll see all the connections that Dune. People always talk about Tolkien, as being sort of this amazing influence on fantasy. Dune is absolutely the grandfather of a lot of concepts in science fiction.
What's crazy
So-
too is that he didn't even invent half this stuff, shields and
Oh.
all that stuff. He popularized it because he took it from people 10 years earlier. People weren't reading that stuff.
All right, so we're gonna go into spoilers. I don't know if you saw that nice little spoiler wipe that I did.
Yeah, I did. It was cool.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I did that earlier today. So this film, again, spoilers. I'm gonna break down the film in 3 sentences, maybe 4 sentences. So this film pretty much follows the first half of the book. Yeah, pretty much the first half of the book. We see the Harkonnens leaving Arrakis, House Atreides getting that planet as its fief, the betrayal of House Atreides, Duncan's sacrifice, and then we finally end the film with Paul and Jessica going to joining the Freeman after Paul has his duel
Stilgar's
with
siege,
Janus, right? So what did we think about what they covered in the film as opposed to? I know you guys don't have the book, but how they covered this in the film? They seem to really have streamlined the story. There's a lot of politics in the book that we don't really see in this movie at all.
Actually, let's ask the people who don't know Dune as well, because
Yeah.
I'm very curious as to whether they felt they got ripped off or not, or they
Did it feel like
enjoyed
it was missing something, or did you feel like it was pretty much Audio.
seemed like
You gotta
everything
talk.
was there that needed to be there. Yeah, like in terms of like if you had read the book ahead of time or seen several different iterations of this, I could see where maybe you would be looking for something that maybe they hadn't put there. But at least for me, I felt like it explained everything pretty well
Nice.
in terms of what kind of a universe it was and what kind of political rules everybody had to follow. Everyone seemed to know what their place was, and like that scene where they all had to dress up, and there was the very formal meeting, and he even asks. He asked that guy who, remember the guy whose his eye rolled back up into his head and he
Those
does
are
the
human
calculation.
computers.
Yeah, man.
Human computer. Okay.
Mentat.
So yeah, so he was even like, how much did this cost? Like he knew it was a political ploy to have them come and do like a
Nice.
formal signing or whatever. So at least for me,
cool.
I saw some of that stuff in there.
Nice.
No, I think
It's
it
really
was pretty. It's fairly well explained. Where like everyone's motivations are very clear in this movie. Like there was no real like trying to guess. Why are these people doing this? What is the importance of the spices? Why is everyone fighting over it? Why is it so important that these people have control? Like everything is very well explained in it. So I like that. There's two things though that I just want to get out of the way really quick, and questions for those who know a lot of it. So the Mentats, I assume, all have that little tattoo, that little soul patch. Okay, because I noticed only two characters in the movie had it, and both of them were the Mentats.
They're the only two.
And secondly,
The things
is there
don't get
any-
explained. A lot of
Yeah,
things
and
don't get
secondly,
explained.
can anyone explain to me why it is that every single time we see Jason Momoa on the screen successively through the movie, his beard gets shorter and shorter?
I don't know, but I noticed they took a lot of shots that were like a lot of shots like this for some reason. Of a,
Go
you know what I mean?
back
up
and
his
like
neck.
go back and look. When he first gets off the plane at the very beginning of the movie, massive beard. The next time we see him, the mutton chops are gone. The next time we see him, it's just a goatee and it's shorter. And then finally, his final scene, clean shaven.
Apparently, they wanted him to so he was growing the beard so that he could join the Fremen, right? So he could be part of that culture. When he shaved it afterwards, is because his mission was complete. And
But the thing is like it wasn't that like he just shaved it all off completely. It was shaved in stages.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
it was
it's
weird.
true.
Yeah, I know.
It's interesting. No, that's a good observation because as Eric said, the whole point was he was sent ahead to make contact with the Fremen, right? But you're right. The way that they did it off in stages, I don't know.
I never would have noticed it except for the fact I've never seen him without a beard.
So
it really stood out.
I noticed that too.
I have a strong suspicion this is linked to, because like I said, this movie is very much like the 21st century version of Dune that we're getting. And I think that's because when special forces were sent into Iraq and Afghanistan, those guys all grew beards so they could blend in with locals. And if you want to send, and that's what they think of. They think like this movie is like the Iraq war, or the 20-year war we've just ended. Is like, that's what's influencing this. You see him, he looks like a fucking fighter pilot. He looks like a 21st century fighter pilot. He doesn't look like a guy who lives in space. When you see Jason Momoa the first time, or Duncan Idaho. And I think that's what we live in. That's why I say this is the movie. This is what we're going to get. We're not going to get a David Lynch. We're not going to get a Jodorowsky version, right?
Yeah, there's definitely some influences like that. Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, I guess since we're talking about the film now, all the versions of Dune so far, and there's always been this this myth that Dune is not shootable, just like Lord of the Rings was, right? And it's kind of cool that people brought up the comparison, because I was going to say, like, at the very least, I do feel that this film has achieved that same effect that what Eric said, seeing The Matrix for the first time, seeing Lord of the Rings for the first time. It is the beginning of a film that really brings you out,
I also think Dune as a story, though, is like the first Matrix, where it's like it changes things, but then like the sequels don't live up the same way.
Yeah, that's
right.
That's fair.
Because they go off somewhere else.
Yeah, they have
the story has to evolve.
Feel.
It does.
Yeah, we'll see what comes out of all of this. I am very curious to see whether or not this.
I don't think people who see this movie understand where the story is going either. They don't understand what's going on with. Paul.
Let me ask you three, the three that know the story. What did you think about where they cut off in the film?
That was fine. I mean, honestly,
I think the location is wrong in terms of story, because it totally breaks the whole point of what the Fremen do. Because like that fight takes place in a cave for a reason.
Yeah.
And then doesn't
I thought that was
So it's like, hey, we live in the desert and we're super careful and we're gonna keep our fucking still suits on for a fight to the death so we can. These are people who can, I'm not happy about some of the choices in this movie, but like,
Brings an elitist. He's an elitist.
I don't give a shit. But it's a cool fight. But it's also the fight choreography is so good, and then they chopped it up for some reason.
I was okay with it. I
What about-
understand
Could
the price of
what'd you think,
filmmaking.
Could have been
Why did they
better.
cut it off?
I thought it was a good point to cut it off. I knew it was gonna, I was wondering how much they were gonna show because, like, when I'm watching trailers for this and that, they were showing like Paul in this like huge fight, and I was like, how much of this book are they actually covering in this? Because
It was a vision.
Yeah, they're gonna show
it
us.
was a vision. Yeah, it was a vision, and I'm glad they cut it off where they did in that, because like one of the interesting things about this movie is Paul's journey in that. I mean, like, you take this kid who comes from like basically a royal lineage, also had was like the product of the design choices in that put in place by a fanatical religious
Is that something
order.
that came across to the newbies? Is that something you understood? That he is the product of
the genetics of a
selective breeding.
eugenics program that went on for thousands of years.
The first time I saw it, like, I wasn't sure that that's what that meant, and I wasn't even sure who those religious religious
Bene
nuns
Gesserit?
were. I thought maybe they were aliens at first, and you had said there aren't any aliens,
Fair enough.
but I thought they were aliens.
I mean, there are
The
people
only-
who have mutated to the point that they might as well be aliens, but they're all humans.
Basically,
the only
yeah.
essence I got about him from his upbringing is the fact that like his parents come from two very different worlds, two very different belief systems, and that he's being pulled in
Interesting.
both directions to learn both of them.
That's not entirely correct, but that's actually somewhat accurate too.
Yeah.
So
Because
fine.
she went the Bene Gesserit school, which everybody in the world of Dune thinks is just like a really nice school for girls to go to, and it's a big deal if you send your daughter there because that means she gets like really good a really good education. So she's not from a different world technically than the Duke, because she should fully understand. That's the weird thing, is they don't show her, any of them, being regal. They don't show the Duke being treated like a fucking Duke, or or like the difference between his private life and his public life as a fucking ruler, and like not just a ruler in like a political sense, but a ruler in like, hey man, I rule not just through like power, but because I was born to rule and I was taught to rule through my entire lineage. Like that's what we do. We're rulers. We're kings and queens. But this is a movie from North America, and we don't believe in that shit.
Yeah.
So when you get this movie, you don't get that sense at all.
That's why I
that,
like the 2000 version, because you see them going amongst the people, and then they have slaves and stuff, right?
Yeah. They
I like
revere them.
they really played on that the different.
There's a lot of things missing from this story that we get.
Fill in the gap. It's not a huge gap, but part of the extensive, ridiculous history of Dune. What the heck? Sorry, guys.
He's so popular. He's just getting calls all the time. Yeah.
Some of them are from ladies, I hear.
Called mom.
Oh. Yeah, I
Stop it, Mom.
I also think it's really easy. I could just sit all day about what they didn't do in this movie.
But it like there are things like my wife. She doesn't like long movies, and she doesn't like things with a lot of backstory that doesn't really get explained. But she really liked this movie, or she liked the part that she stayed awake for. She's also old. No, I'm just joking.
Someone clip that and send it to Eric's wife real quick.
No. She falls asleep at like very early because we have.
You mean Eric's ex-wife, right?
Oh, ouch.
All I was gonna say.
That's weird, Eric. I thought you were supposed to see your kids every day, not every other weekend.
Oh,
brutal.
Anyway.
All I was gonna say is it doesn't really matter. I mean, what's interesting is that there is like something going on with Paul, that's larger than just him. That's all you really need to know. Because that's the thing I was going to say is I'm coming at it from the perspective of, yes, we all know that Gandalf spent 10 years in the library to figure out where that fucking ring was. Okay. But you don't need to see it, right? I mean, that's the thing. Like film.
Well, they showed us that he was in a library, though. That was very useful information to know that Gandalf did look up.
They didn't show him doing it for 10 years, okay?
Yes, but we knew that he was from a fucking library. They didn't even... They thought the Bene Gesserit were aliens, man. That's not good.
That's fair, but it's
not
really...
good.
They're introduced really early.
practically are aliens.
I mean,
okay.
they did all fly off in a spaceship after the end. So.
Yeah.
A lot of the
They had a
shaped like a
magic
giant
box you put
egg.
your hand in.
Yeah.
a lot of the backstory isn't really relevant to the story of what I think Villeneuve decided to focus on. I mean, this is what I was sort of saying earlier, is when you compare the three versions that we have, you can sort of look at the decisions that were made in terms of how much of the universe do we really want to incorporate. And they really traded off on a lot of focus on certain characters. Like if you just take the 84 version of the film, don't even talk about the TV series, okay? If you just take the 84 version and the 2021 version, they completely changed the focus of secondary characters.
Yeah.
Right? Like Gurney. Oh no, actually I shouldn't say Gurney. Yui, the doctor, and some of the other I can't remember right now.
Liet Kynes.
Liet. No, Liet had a good amount as well.
I think Liet is better. I mean, I love Max von Sydow, but I think Liet is kind of better in this version.
I think
gonna say that
don't learn enough.
Yeah. I was going to say the point is they put a lot more emphasis on Duncan, who dies like a bitch in the 84 version. Okay,
one bullet.
I feel that emphasis on him really helped the new film, whereas they took a lot away from Dr. Yui and some of these other people who, honestly, if you're trying to focus on Paul and Jessica, aren't that important. Like in the greater scheme of things, there's all kinds of backstories for everybody.
My question for you then, Steve, is why didn't they show all these people as how much they cared about Paul like they did previously? Because Dr. Yui loves Paul so much.
I
think you get like almost none of that.
My grand scheme in this is, though, look, Villeneuve went out knowing, just as Lynch did actually too. To be fair, Lynch made like a 3.5 hour cut, and then Dino De Laurentiis cut it down to like whatever the horrendous theatrical cut we got. Okay, he knew version, he knew the movie could not tell the story properly that way. Villeneuve, right away at the very beginning, even before he shot the thing, said, "This is impossible. I'm going to just do a first part, whether I get a second part or not." Right. So he knew this is the proper way to tell the story. So he had to make decisions on slicing certain things up.
Okay.
And the problem is the emphasis is distracting if you have too much. So I get it. I'm sure he shot all that stuff. And I'm sure we're going to
He's saying he didn't. He's saying there's no other version of this movie. He said,
then you hear Jason
Momoa said he wants a director's cut, and Villeneuve said, that's the director's cut. I made it. That's the movie I wanted to make.
I've seen some shots that aren't in the movie, so...
Yeah. I will say, like, as like a newcomer to it, like that was one of the few problems that I had with the movie was the underdevelopment of some of these characters. Like,
yes, it's
Jason Momoa's death wasn't that impactful to me because I feel like he didn't get anything other than like his scenes are he comes in, it's like, hey Paul, here's a hug. Oh, we're buddies. Okay, I gotta go off now. So when he dies, it just wasn't impactful to me.
So much worse than the 84 movie.
And the same thing with Dr. Yui's betrayal. It didn't come across to you like when he was revealed as the one who betrayed him. It was just kind of like a
I know the reason.
You're like, who's this character? That's
really
he's only like the doctor. Really, like
he's only shown as a doctor too, right? He's not the teacher or like the confidant that he really is.
I mean, there's so much they don't. Well, I got a quick gripe with like Thufir being like, hey man, I tendered my resignation. That's in the book. That makes sense. And then he's like, hey, man, I'm really sorry. I fucked up. And he goes, you didn't fuck up. Paul survived. Paul survived because you taught him. And then you see, well, look at the tenderness between the Duke. Look how he treats the people because this guy's a part of his family. And in the movie, he goes, I'm pissed. You go find some fucking spies to atone for this. You're like, whoa, what? This is not a nice guy. This is not a good guy.
That felt like the 2000 version.
But this I would argue is
it's one line.
Film editing, though. No, like
it's one line. My son survived because of you. Now go find me some spies.
Oh, but the thing is, the character hadn't done enough in the movie to warrant that type of acknowledgement. He's honestly nothing in the film. Both really Mentats were utterly erased from the film, right? Like they're not. Yeah, I get what you're trying to say. See, here's the thing for the people who don't know Dune. Each of those like confidants and like really loyal people who serve the Duke are major characters and actually like have a lot of
POV characters in the book.
But here's the thing, I'm going to take it back to like Mortal Kombat, like the first film. How are you going to tell the story of all these characters, right? You've got to like cut down a lot of these people. And they decided to focus on Paul and Jessica. And as much as you want to keep all of Paul's mentors in, at the end of the day, what matters is his relationship with his father,
mom.
right? You want to keep and his mom, right? Yeah, you want to like say, oh yeah,
with his uncle. Oh, okay,
fine. You want to say Halleck and and Duncan and all these people are like really great, but there's just not enough time.
Right.
You're also dealing with the mentality of a movie audience in that, who is, not just people who haven't read the book and that, but people who just basically want to see this new movie coming out.
But if Brent is saying that Duncan's death isn't impactful, and we see more of Duncan than any, I'm like, that's a problem. That's a failure of a film, then, right?
Sure.
Okay,
Can I add really quickly to that? Yeah, I just wanted to say about the deaths, like. Going into this movie not knowing anything about any of the characters, you sort of get a sense of what kind of impact deaths are going to have throughout the movie. And very early on in the movie, I started to feel like this was going to be like a Game of Thrones style thing where everybody is probably going to die by the end of this movie. And there was a point in the movie, probably about an hour in, where I realized I can't get attached to any of these characters. They're all going to die.
That's very
I wasn't sure if any of them were going to survive. And it's true, by the end of the movie, there wasn't that many left, right?
Yeah.
There wasn't that many of the main characters left, so it was hard to get attached to them anyway, in the amount of time that I had.
Just stay attached to Paul.
I think...
Okay.
No, forget Paul.
I think this is the distinction between the 84 and the 2021, is that in the 84, right away, you're like, the Duke is doomed. Everybody knows the Duke is doomed. That is it's dramatic irony. For the father, nothing.
Enough,
you know the Duke. You don't know anybody else is doomed, but you know the Duke is doomed, and you know that for that whole movie, and it's awesome because when everything that happens, but the Duke knows he's doomed. He knows he's doomed, and he kind of does in this too. But you don't get the sense that he's trying to go, Paul, listen the fuck up, smarten up. You're going to be the Duke soon. Nobody goes to Paul and they're like, hey man, you're going to be the Duke. Even at the end, when Duncan comes up to Paul and he goes, oh, Paul, no. That's your Duke. You fucking call him Duke. He wouldn't start with Paul. He would lead with, it's like, that's the character, right? Because this is a formal feudal society. You don't get to call your lord by their first name unless they do it first.
I wonder if in the film, I'm going to go just off of what we saw, is if he's like, I think your father is dead, and then he sees the ring, and that's why he knelt down.
No, yeah, I know how the movie does it, but like, I don't know, man. Like they just changed stuff. Like they just changed. They just changed stuff. And it's not more or less digestible.
They do that in movies.
They just change stuff, right?
He's the Lord of the Ring purist.
It doesn't make it better. It doesn't make it more understandable. They just changed it.
I want to say something about
the movies,
about them streamlining this film. And I agree with what Steve says. They are really focusing on Jessica and Paul's relationship, and I think this film builds that relationship faster and better than anything that we've seen so far, because just even initially up until the Gum Jabbar scene, like their relationship has been built, and I feel how they connect. Like that voice scene was perfect to lead off near the beginning of the movie.
For purists of Dune, I know there is some criticism of how Jessica is portrayed, but I understand that you have to understand, if you watch the 1984 version, and as much as I like the 1984 version, it is a little bit lazy in that it takes a lot of inner monologue straight out of the novel and just puts it into the movie and makes them whisper it. As like
1984 is just a scene from the novel, then a scene from the novel, and a scene, and that's what makes it. And it's sort of
odd.
Makes sense. Yeah, it's odd.
It makes sense, but it's very weird. And they took out all the weird voiceovers, all the weird ASMR, and they tried to display it more as an emotional performance. So some people will say this. I'm just preparing all people who are not avid Dune fans that Jessica's portrayal is maybe too emotional, because some people like to think of Bene Gesserit as these like stoic space ninjas. Okay.
That's
I understand.
what they are.
Yes, that's true. But what's important is, in terms of the movie, Villeneuve said, okay, how do I focus this? Because I don't know if I'm even going to get a second part. How do I make a movie that makes sense in and of itself? And so he had to make these decisions. And I think, the relationship of a mother and son within this huge, like, intergalactic political intrigue makes sense, even though it's not utterly true to the letter of the book, because there's just too much going on. Like, there's a lot of like stuff going on behind the scenes, which they hint at and they drop for fan service. Okay, pretty much. But there's no way they could possibly explain, unless you're doing a TV series, there's no way.
I think
think it's a good compromise.
As like a essentially Dune purist, I like what they do with Jessica.
Mhm.
I wish we also had the other side to contrast her, though. I wish we saw the
Ninja?
the concubine of, not the ninja, but because she does some cool shit. She does a fucking sick flip.
Yep.
Really quickly.
Because like you see the only kind of like hint you see of her being like a Bene Gesserit and like, hey, I can scan people like Sherlock Holmes in less than a second, and like her doing her kind of duty to the Duke is when she talks to the shit out Mapes, which for some reason they don't call her the shit out, but because that's her title.
If it's a purist.
They're just changing shit, man. Is she like, she scans her right away, but you don't, it's not visually told that she scans her. You just like, oh, I know you have a weapon on you, and it's like, I mean, yeah, I guess you know that, but like, how do we know that? You just told us that. You didn't show us that in the movie, right? You didn't.
I feel like a
the
lot
visual
of
language didn't,
a lot.
I feel
of
okay for as someone who going into that who knows nothing, and I didn't even know anything about her. All I knew is that at that point there was some kind of unique power that she had going on as far as like the voice thing. So I assumed that it had something to do with that. I didn't need it explained as to how she knew she had a weapon. I just knew that's like, okay, she has some kind of power. It must have something to do with that.
Good.
Except it's not a superpower is the thing.
But it's fine. It's fine. You understand that she has skills.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's probably the most book accurate scene in the movie, actually. That right there.
I want to talk about I feel like what they focused on for her, like to make her a little different, is, or why she sort of broke away and isn't as cold as the other Bene Gesserit, is that her love for Duke Leto was so strong, or at least in the film, is what I assume that it's what they were going with, and that's why she's a little bit different than everyone else.
Did it come across?
I think that's what I was going to ask these two.
I don't think it did.
No, you didn't think they had a good relationship?
They have like one scene together.
Yeah.
Right?
To me, it
she
came across
fucking loves him.
Yeah.
It came across in the movie as like it was almost like it was an arranged marriage.
Did you?
Like it was like two people are brought together to bring two families together,
guys
kind
think
of thing.
that they're married is what's even worse. Is that they're not.
They're not.
So
Does he even say it?
I knew.
Yeah, he does.
I
Even
knew
say
that
it.
they're not talking to you guys, but in the movie, I have no. I honestly, I believe that they were married.
So basically, what she didn't marry him. They didn't get married because there's such a big house. There's a possibility of securing safety between different houses by marrying the Duke.
Having played a lot of Crusader Kings, let me tell you, it's very important to secure your bloodline.
Yeah, secure bloodlines, marry different houses together. That's why they never got married. That's why she's his concubine. But there's that. I see. Even my wife was like, "Why weren't they married?"
Yeah, it's complicated.
They didn't really explain that. That's weird.
Well, that's actually kind of not bad though, because if they're going, "Why aren't they married?" Because they love each other. That's a good sign to me.
So the grand, huge, gigantic, like way back machine history is that at some point in the distant past, this is not important to Dune really, but they created thinking machines and basically lived the utopian society of robots doing everything for us. And then at some point, some asshole decided to make the robots turn against other humans, and there was a huge like Terminator type war.
On AI, right?
Yeah,
well, that's
basically,
after, Eric. That's after that happens. The AI take over.
But this is like so far beyond the beginning of Dune, it's almost irrelevant, except it does set up all of this. The point is, there are no AI in the current setting of Dune because we had to fight against AI and we destroyed them. And then out of the ashes of losing all of this opulence and, being able to sit back and do nothing, we had to rebuild society. So one of the side effects of that is the Bene Gesserit school was a school of thought and philosophy that believed in eugenics. And for like thousands of years, these women have been cultivating like perfection in certain attributes and abilities and genetics. And so they actually have powers, but not like necessarily superhuman, just
they're a bunch of fucking Sherlock Holmes is what they are.
Yeah, basically they are space ninjas, okay? This is going to be more important to the next film, but the point is they hint at it in only one scene when Paul is accusing his mother of like, what did you do to me? Like, why am I whom I am, right? And you get the no, even before that. No, like when the Reverend Mother has just left. The point is, I know that stuff was not touched on too heavily, but it's just like what I just told you is, it's like
Yeah,
I know, it's so
I wonder
meta,
if, like,
you know?
if you take that out of the film at all, would it matter if they didn't have a second film?
Well, that's
Right?
okay. So if they
Yeah,
go right,
exactly.
if you just take out the like Bene Gesserit stuff entirely from this film, it doesn't change the way this film goes, and it's only something that might pay off in a second film, but it has no payoff in this film, which drives me nuts.
But that's exactly it, right? He knew he could only make one film. So I find it interesting, hopefully, the film was still enjoyable for you guys, without knowing that little piece of background that I described. But there are entire traditions of schools of thought, like the Mentats, which again, they completely obliterated from this because they got rid of thinking machines. They had to depend on humans who could do calculations really quickly. So Mentats, the guys,
which we see once.
Yes. Yeah.
Which also
once,
makes them like basically we've made superhumans. We've trained superhumans in different ways.
Like human computers, yes.
And but the Bene Gesserit are like, it's like you have one version of Batman and you have another version of Batman and another version of Batman, and they all like are kind of against each other, sort of. And they all exist in this world, and none of them you get to show you how badass they are.
But it doesn't matter because the focus is on Paul, right?
But here's the thing: Paul is the combination of all those things. He's trained by a Mentat. He's trained by a Bene Gesserit.
But they have another movie to explain that, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
I think
that kind of stuff was for the fans, right? I think the Mentat, like, it didn't matter to me. Like the fact that he did this calculation in his head, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. It didn't matter to me, but for somebody who's read the books and knew the movies, like, oh, I know what that is.
No,
that's
it's not cool if you've read the books. It's a huge letdown if you've read the books.
Fine. That's why I really wanted to know what Brent and Schaus thought, because
I'm with Schaus on this. Like, it's like, for someone who doesn't know all of that stuff, to me, that is a lot of that is fan service. Like, that's, if we had a 10-episode series to explain it, then we could get into it. But for people like us they're trying to drive us into the theaters, people who don't know the story. So to tell the story of a mother and son going through this, that's what's appealing to us, and that's a story. That's why when I say like the whole thing about Duncan's death meaning nothing to me, because his whole character's purpose was in service of Paul, was to be Paul's conduit, is to be Paul's almost like a brother. And I feel like that's what they wanted to set up, and they just didn't. And you can leave out a lot of those other things. I don't care. But like, if Paul is going to be our main character, if he's going to be our focus, then we should be putting more effort into filling out those who are directly around him.
Yeah,
that's fair.
That is fair.
Before
that's good. That's really good.
I got to get going.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
Oh, okay.
All right. Sorry, guys.
Hawk off here. Bye, Hawk.
Okay.
Thank you, Hawk.
Bye, Hawk.
Later, guys.
Take care.
Boo. Okay, I gotta move.
Ooh, I'm on top now.
So I have a question for that, because if the relationship in this film between Duncan and Paul is so important,
it's not.
It's not that it's important.
He dies
it's that
for
I feel
him.
like I know, but that's the problem.
Important.
Is I feel like it was glossed over in the movie. I feel like it should have been more important.
See, I see it from both perspectives. I think Brent is entirely accurate in what the intention was, and I see David's indignation as also correct as a fan, because Duncan Idaho is, believe it or not, even though he's dead,
he's the best of us. Is what he's described as. He's the best of us.
Important character who lives on beyond the other existing.
No, I don't care about that stuff. I don't care about that. I don't care about the spoilers. Duncan Idaho is sent to the Fremen because he represents the best of the Atreides, and that's how they want to secure their alliance.
But I think
all that stuff is important, and it's in this movie, right? It's in the movie, so show that. Tell us. And then
I think it's
Duncan being the weapon master, training Paul. Why can Paul win that fight? Is it because he can see through space and time, or is it because Duncan Idaho taught him, or is it both? Like, build this thing.
And then David, the way he's going on right now, okay, like that he is totally like spiced drugged out of his mind. Okay, like the fact of the matter is, I see it from both sides, and I don't think anyone's going to be happy, because I appreciate both sides of it. And yes, it's interesting to hear what Brent said, saying that what was kind of the point of that, because it didn't really go anywhere. I totally agree with you. On the other hand, having seen the 1984 version where the guy like totally died like a bitch, I'm like, man, that was terrible, So I'm kind of glad they gave Jason Momoa. I mean, if you're gonna hire the fucking guy,
they were never going to give Jason Momoa glorious death. Like there was no chance. Like
He's okay. He's okay.
Hold on.
Yeah.
I want to know, because I know what my wife thought about it. I mean, I'll talk about it next.
Yeah,
But I want to know what
sure.
Shows thought about Duncan Idaho and his death on the film. Like we hear what Dave and Brent have felt, but what did you think of his relationship with Paul, and how he died and how he's portrayed?
I'm going to argue that they shouldn't have. Like, I agree with Brent 100%. They should have given him more, but I think it's because of the casting. I think because Jason Momoa is such a well-known actor, I think because he's for the fan service, people love him, and you want more Jason Momoa. You want to have him be developed as more of a character.
It's fun.
I think that if it was a different actor, or it was a no-name actor or an unknown actor, and he was just like a friend of Paul's or a trainer of Paul's, I don't think we would be looking for that backstory that we're looking for. Because of Momoa.
I think they've succeeded then.
Yeah,
I disagree with that though. I think it could be Jason Mewes playing that part for all I care.
That would be amazing.
The fact is
Yo, Dr. Fremen live in the desert. There's way more than we thought, and they get so high.
It's the fact that they consistently set up every single time those two characters meet. You feel the camaraderie between them. You feel the relationship.
They're brothers. They're best friends.
They don't develop it beyond that just initial, like, oh, how are you? I've missed you. How's things going? How's your training? Oh, you have muscles? Okay, bye.
I'll speak off my wife, and because she's not a big sci-fi fan, which is, I don't know how I married her, but she did end up watching this for me. She doesn't know.
Jesus Christ, how are you still married after this?
It's not a good episode for your wife.
Could bring her into all of this. That's the reason.
So she watched it, and she
it was your anniversary last week. Jesus.
I remember her saying, "I don't think I've ever seen a movie with Jason Momoa. She hasn't seen Justice League or anything. She knows him because he's very popular." But she did.
I would watch Braven.
Stargate Atlantis.
I'm going to show her.
That's not a movie.
C is what I'm going to show her. The TV show. But she did say that she did think it was a noble death, and she thought it was a heartbreaking death because it was someone that seemed to care for Paul a lot, and Paul cared for him a lot. Even though there were just a couple scenes for him, she thought that the relationship was still there.
I feel like I did get that. I got that from his death. I got the emotional.
She's also not like a film geek that breaks things down and analyzes stuff like us.
I got the emotional payoff from it. Like I understood why his death was important to Paul, and I understand why his death was important to that point in the movie. I'm just saying that they didn't, in my eyes, develop everything leading up to that properly.
I'm gonna say this. We have no idea what's going to happen from here. Unfortunately, I do strongly suspect there will be a sequel, but they haven't played that
tracking
marketing game.
It's number one right now. It's going to be a sequel.
The issue more though for people who are in the know is whether or not they'll do more beyond the sequel. And in that case,
we just need Dune. Please don't make Children of Dune. Please.
Okay,
if there's money to be made, they will make all the Dune.
I know.
The point is,
it's not going to put people's butts in seats. Let me tell you.
I find it really interesting that we are discussing this Momoa element, because I think that the casting of him, like, I was very good at avoiding the trailers and all the information as much as possible. I saw the casting, I was like, yeah, I agree with that. I'm out. Yeah. I'm just going to watch the movie, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that it's really interesting we're talking about Momoa because, as everyone has sort of implied, that casting draws attention to this character, and then he's just killed, right? And it's fun that you were able to explain it to your wife that it was, something, possibly a little bit more relevant,
I didn't have to.
And it's sort of also fun. Yeah.
I didn't have to explain anything to her, right?
Yeah, exactly. Sorry. She got it, right? And whereas like Brendan Schaus is sort of like thinking, maybe that was overemphasized, right? I think that's almost like threading the needle, right? Because we don't know what's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
I don't think like I said, Momoa, whoever played him, that's beyond the point that I'm trying to make on like it had really like it has. My point is not so much focusing on that specific character and that specific relationship, but more of what we discussed earlier about the overarching theme of a lot of these supporting characters not being very underutilized.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And just using Jason Momoa and his character in that relationship, I'm using that as the example, as a broad example for all of the side characters that I feel like I didn't get to know very well.
Did you feel the same about Josh Brolin's Gurney?
I could not watch Josh Brolin without picturing Thanos. God, that voice. Every time he spoke, I could not stop picturing Thanos. But I do feel the same thing. I feel like he's got to be, the way that it was left off for me is that he's got to be a huge character in the second part.
Yeah, Patrick Stewart is such a good fucking Gurney Halleck, and I don't think we're gonna top it.
Mood is the thing for love playing cattle, not fighting.
That's right. Yes. Because
okay.
I don't. Yeah, it's a whole. It's more of like the characterization that we don't get.
Yeah.
Then and the chances we do have for it when
that was all right.
He's okay. He's okay.
Here's what I
just wanted to know.
Duncan to
He's
die.
barely in it.
You just didn't want Duncan to die. That's right.
As a newbie going into it, here's what I thought. I looked at Gurney and Duncan as being very parallel characters in this movie as far as Paul's journey goes. And I really thought that they were setting it up that Duncan was going to be the good guy on his shoulder and Gurney is going to be the devil on his shoulder, and that there was going to be something that happens eventually where maybe Gurney becomes a turncoat and he's actually working for the enemy or something like that.
He kills half of the known universe.
I really thought that that's where the movie was going until it didn't go that way. So
I got to read a couple things on Twitch. OG Cylon's in our chat right now, and they're saying not everything here just indicates more depth and breadth to the world. That makes it feel, I don't know, a bit more like Snoogans, which I assume was for the
Snoogans.
And then
very good. Thank you.
Momoa is somehow...
It was between Jason Bateman or Jason Mewes for who I referenced.
I'm glad you picked Mewes.
Well, I didn't know what I expected.
They also wrote, Momoa is somehow the everyman in this. He is not royalty. He's Samwise. Yeah. Which,
that's a really good observation. I agree with that. Yeah, no, it's funny we're debating him because I think that is...
He's probably the best casting in this movie.
Yes,
is the
he
thing.
was. I knew he was going to die, right? Like the moment he was cast, I was like, oh, well, this guy's fucked, right? But I'm like, that's a good character because people notice him.
But he's like, he's a troubadour warrior. And you're like, well, who do you think, who would you have a beer with? Who would sing with you at the bar? Who would do karaoke? And who would go beat the shit out of him?
Troubadour warrior.
The one thing, and another reason why
he can also sing and dance, though. Yeah.
Another reason why I think there's so much emphasis on my part of his character is because he does play an integral part to the overall story.
Much more so.
There's absolutely no way in my mind that Paul and Rebecca would have gotten with Fromir at the end if it was not for his.
True enough.
With him.
Yeah.
He would have made a good Gurney as well. I think Momoa would have made a good Gurney.
No, Gurney's...
Patrick Stewart is because Gurney like flip flops.
Anyway,
Gurney is like
Gurney's
super serious, and then Gurney like plays a fucking lute, man. Like it's
brother. Let's move on to.
I think each of us are going to drop off the show. It's just going to be Steve and Dave talking about.
Damn it, Steve! They did
I want to talk about.
He should have been in a cave.
Some themes that I thought were more prevalent in this than any other. Maybe not the miniseries, but there was a very, at least for me when I was watching this, they really focused on religion, the influence of the Bene Gesserit, all the mythologies that were surrounding Paul. Did you guys, the new people, did you guys feel like he was like this mythical person in this film? Like, was their religion very prevalent in this? Because it's
kind of a Luke Skywalker kind of thing to him, right? Like he was.
That's good because Luke Skywalker is based off of Paul Atreides.
Yeah. like he's like the chosen one, right? And that's become a bit of a sci-fi trope, right? Like this idea of this chosen one who's coming into his own.
He's Luke Skywalker. He's Neo. He's
do you feel he's the chosen one because he's Paul Atreides and he's the main character, or do you think he's the chosen one because the people on the planet think he's the chosen one, though? Because those are two different things. Is he actually the chosen one, or do they think he's the chosen one?
Because there's a chosen one of the universe, and then the chosen one of the people.
Because when he, there is a great scene that's not in the David Lynch version, and this version when he walks out and he talks about the trees and stuff, and he's like, "What are they saying? They're saying Lisan al-Gaib, the one who will lead us out of darkness," and that's the people saying, "Hey, Paul is the chosen one." But does Paul? Paul doesn't believe that. Paul doesn't. He's like, "What the fuck is this?"
And that was the influence of the Bene Gesserit as well, right? I don't know if they mention
which is not explained. Not explained. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's how the book starts.
They don't explain it.
I meant in the movie.
Yeah. I don't
the movie does not explain that shit at all.
I'm asking shows. Shows, did you realize that the Bene Gesserit were influencing things on Arrakis?
They described it. But in the narrative, they described it.
Did it feel like that in the film?
it didn't feel like it until they described it as part of the the description that Jessica gave to him and said, this is the Bene Gesserit at work. The path, yeah. That discussion that they had in the vehicle. Can I mention too that those dragonfly ships are really cool?
Yes,
they're super cool.
If you're in D-Box, you felt every
completely
single flap,
bullshit.
and like my shoulders and neck felt so good after this movie because of D-Box, and I had it on full. Oh my god, it was the best thing. Like I will say,
I had a feeling while I was watching it. I remember you making a comment about like the D-Box seats in this movie, and then as I was watching those, I was like, I wonder if that's what he was talking about.
That's 100%.
That's good to know.
And also, I have to make a request really quickly. The next time we do a show about something that Dave is very passionate about, can you remind me to charge my headphones beforehand?
Fair.
This is it. These are the only things I care about in the universe.
Hey, Midnight Mass and Dune are done. We're good.
Steve, you were saying, sorry?
I don't even remember now.
We're talking about religion and the Bene Gesserit and Paul being the Messiah and stuff.
Pretty sure it actually didn't have to do with that.
Oh, god damn it! Well,
so drunk. Sorry.
Yeah, they gave a lot to the Thopters in this movie. We should have mentioned that earlier because they look fucking dope. They are sadly not book accurate, but they are very cool because an ornithopter is something that flies like a bird, so it has wings that scoop air. But I fucking love them in this.
Yeah,
they're so cool.
That was the thing I was going to say. Yeah, I didn't see the trailers, and I was really happy.
Did they show this in the trailers?
I feel like there was some shots of it, a little bit.
How cool was the carry-all, dude? When it just inflates the balloons to fly. Yeah. That shit's super cool.
So you see David losing his shit here. I mean, that's the thing, right? The technology in Dune is very much well figured out in the setting. Even down to like why they use the specific weapons.
The paracompass. I'm not going to get into it. Like, hey, we can't have a thing. We can't have AI. But there are ways to figure out how to get this compass to point north with technology, but that isn't AI. Like, that's cool shit, man.
If you ever wanted to see like a Star Wars fan,
that's a good job.
This is the equivalent right here. This is Dave here.
That's a good job. I think they did a good job on so many things in this movie, and then they just kind of like go, but not that part though.
The ornithopters are fine.
Yeah,
I said I like the ornithopters.
Okay.
Shouts muted if you were wondering.
Oh, it's fine. He's just like judging us.
He looks very confused.
The only thing I was thinking of the whole ornithopter every time I saw one is I'm like, I almost wonder if they were going to make one that was like based on a bumblebee or something like that.
That would make more sense because again, scooping air.
Sense, it's just it's a detail that Frank Herbert explains like in his elaborate like over detail. It's not important, but it's kind of fun to see it realized. And I was pleasantly surprised when I
love the Thopters in this.
We should have talked about the design thing earlier.
I said we should have. Yeah.
So the Fremen are very important to Dune as a whole, but what did you think of how much they were used in the film? Because
I think it makes sense that they're basically not in this movie because they really are more important in the second half.
Well, Brent, what did you think of it?
I was fine with the amount that they were used in because I really felt like it was either you had to incorporate them more into the movie or less and make the second part about them. So I actually think that they should have ended the movie even earlier than they did, even before that fight.
That's really interesting. I was going to say point at. Go ahead, Eric.
I don't think I talked about where I thought they ended. So I thought they were like, if they were going to do that fight at the end, I thought they were going to go up until maybe before the jump, without spoiling the other to these.
You mean the time jump?
Yeah, I didn't want to say that, but. Well, I meant for Brent because he hasn't seen it.
They might not.
You don't know how long it is. It could be 10,000 years. It could be 1 month. It's a time jump.
I thought they were going to do it right before the time jump because that sort of makes sense in my brain. I don't know why, because I saw the fight and I was like, okay, I guess they're going to go up there, or after Duke Leto dies. Like I assumed that whole part was going to be.
You think that would be the end of the movie? Just like Leto dies and everything falls and
I thought that would be cool. I thought that would be a cool ending. Like,
well, we'd have to focus on the family way more than.
I think the way they framed it, I think it makes sense. I was sort of thinking that too. I thought like, okay, they could just end it when the moment that Jessica and Paul crest the hill and see everything on fire,
Yeah.
right? I mean, that's sort of like a natural point. But I think in terms of setting up a sequel and trying to like milk the potential of a sequel, they needed to provide the path to hope, right? And then finding. Sorry, go ahead, Brent.
I don't know. I agree. I think that we needed to see the Froman at the end of this movie to set up the anticipation for this. Abe
Froman, the Sausage King of Chicago.
It's fine. Fremen. Don't ignore Dave. He's an elitist.
Synapses. That's how they work.
Now I know why two of us are gone.
Yeah. So you like
just unplug this charger. No, I think that we needed to see them to set up the anticipation for, because you have to leave an audience thinking, where is the next one going to go? So I think we needed to definitely see, but I would have ended it like at the moment that they kind of they encounter them, when like once they encounter them, and then end it there. I don't think we needed to see the fight. Or
I did assume that after the fight he would have picked his name. Like, I thought that was going to happen in this film.
Right.
Like, and then that sets up the whole big thing of the next film. But they never do that. And I thought that was really weird because they showed the mouse a lot.
I feel like there might be some flashbacks if we get a sequel to that mouse.
They showed the mouse a lot. The mouse is important later for guys.
For those who don't know,
for one thing,
in the Lynch film, which I think did divide this up fairly accurately, but I think it makes sense if you're going to split it up. Basically, the two things that the people who don't know Dune, for your benefit, the Bene Gesserit as a tradition that has existed since the destruction of AI, have been plotting like their own sort of plan to create like a genetic super being, right? Which is hinted at in the film. But more importantly, they have such influence as Bene Gesserit women who have infiltrated every aspect, every level of society, that they have actually planned for this moment. And they have, in fact, seeded worlds. This is why Dune is so amazing.
I think this might be in a sequel if they do it. They have to explain this, right? They have to.
This is not really a spoiler, but it'll at least allow you to like understand some of what's going on in the first film. They've seeded worlds with myths for the eventuality of their success. And what's happening at the end of the film, the very end, after like, you know, the knife fight and everything, is Paul is obviously aware of some of this information, and he decides to take advantage of the myths that have been laid beforehand by the Bene Gesserit across countless worlds in order to secure his position with the Fremen. So I know that whole sentence probably doesn't make sense because I'm super drunk.
Wait, does it make sense?
Point is,
to the other people, to the new ones? What Steve was talking about?
I really briefed over that.
Exploiting the fact that these people think he's a savior.
He's a god, yeah.
Yeah, they basically
not a god, but savior.
They planted a myth about a man who would come and would know your ways and would be born of a Bene Gesserit. Like, these are all things that have already been prepared
like hundreds of years.
Hundreds of years and been planted into the culture, which I don't think is really emphasized.
It is kind of set up, like the fact that like you get that feeling every time Paul encounters someone, and you get like those people give him that look, and they start
Stilgar says, "I recognize you."
Yeah,
which is cool but weird.
Yeah. And just like it's just the way that everyone and they speak in a different language when they talk to him and everything, and he understands. Like that gave me the sense that like people see him as some kind of like foretold story, you know, like
so there's
some eventual hero.
There's an interesting sort of parallel kind of narrative as to, is he really truly the prophesized one, or is he just someone who's taking advantage? Yeah, an exploitation of something that's been laid for, you know.
And I got that sense too, for when like the woman at the beginning was basically like telling the mother, you know, like, what were you doing? You were told to have a girl. Like, you know, guys can't do this. You know, like you're putting all your effort in.
Look, I didn't want to get into that. Dare not look, and you'll see me there.
See, that's a whole other thing that I didn't even want to touch on, because we'll see if
there's a lot of that in the. Oh look, it's all of us except Steve's in the wrong thing because he turned off his video. Shit, what were we talking about? Oh god, that was a good talk too. I wish I was recording it. God damn
We
it.
were talking about
Sorry.
the mother's decision. Yeah,
So-
Jessica's
so-
decision to kick him off the planet.
So Jessica's motivations, like it felt like she was trying to move her son off of world for pretty much most of the film. But I feel like her motivations changed when she saw his vision in the tent. Like I think she saw something awaken in him. It might have been the whole.
That is when the
was that?
sleeper.
The
Nah,
Kwisatz
actually,
Haderach and all of that stuff happened. Or I think that's when she realized that he's really up for the challenge. And I think that's where we're going to see her move forward with her belief in him as, the voice.
I think we see it in her, but I don't think we really see the change in him, oddly enough. He still seems kind of the same, but something does change in him there. And I don't know if you guys saw it. I didn't see it.
I think it's subtle, but I think he's gaining more confidence. Like, I don't think he would have done that fight if he was as, unsure of himself as he was earlier.
He doesn't know the stakes of the fight.
Yeah, that's true.
I would say that the fact that he did decide, like when his mother said, like, we've got to get off world, and then he kind of overrid her. I feel that that's the moment when he comes into his own, that he decides, no, this is my purpose. I am the Duke, and I'm going to try to take desert power and change things. So that's my interpretation anyways.
I am Paul Atreides, and I am burdened with glorious purpose.
I am Paul, hear me roar.
Yeah. I don't know how much we want to keep going. I know we stopped for a couple seconds there. We talked about Jessica. There is something I do want to talk about. We touched on it a little bit because of how the houses are portrayed in the
Oh God, it's Steve's drinking, isn't it?
No. But there's a lot of talk online about this. About this film
It's an intervention.
There's a lot of talk online about this film. Like, most of the reviews are very positive, but there are a couple people online that are saying that this is very much a white film. Like, a lot of the portrayals are white and really
I'm not gonna lie. I did play when what's her face again. I'm bad with names.
Jessica?
the doctor,
yes, like the
Dr. Leah Kynes.
It kinds.
yes, that's
The
it.
planetologist.
I did notice when she came on screen. It was one of the few times I was like, "Oh, there's another black person."
Yeah, well,
Fair enough.
the big criticism online is that this seems like white savior because all the Fremen are people of color. There's like
I have bad news for those people. That's the story.
I know. And
Yeah.
then we get House Atreides very white, and then there's a couple other people in the world that are colored as well. Dr. Yue.
I do like.
I mean,
that
at the same
cast.
Okay. So I was going to say, ideally in 2021, if you could cast these people, but I think it's a great cast, and I'm not focused on race and cultural issues, even though that is very much a part of the story, but it's projected so far to the future, and it is about the essential qualities of humanity that it transcends, in my opinion, like notions of specific, cultural attitudes or countries and so on and so forth. So I'm just speaking for myself. I know there's going to be a white savior narrative that's thrown out there. I don't think that's valid necessarily. I mean, you could make that argument just because of who's cast, but I personally am able to enjoy the story for philosophical implications.
It's like I said while the stream was frozen. I'll say it again. It's 2021. You can't do anything without somebody pointing racist. It's just impossible.
The story is heavily influenced by like Lawrence of Arabia, which is sort of a white savior thing.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
But like I said, I think I said while we're frozen, if you read the book, you'll understand why it's not that. It will very much be to be fair, the writer specifically said what the book is a warning.
Yeah.
And about what specific things you'll have to read to understand. But it is a good job. And it is very pertinent, actually, to our current political climate.
Fair enough.
If you read the whole book.
I agree with the elitist.
Before I go to my
could you imagine if Star Wars came out for the first time, like it had never existed?
Different time.
It came out in 2021. Jesus.
No,
Christ,
we've had this conversation. We've had this conversation in Chasing Amy. Right?
It's true.
White man, black man, black man's white inside.
Anyway, let's move away from this. Before I go into the last thing, are there any scenes in particular you guys want to mention or shout out because they were very good? The Gom Jabbar scene I thought was phenomenal. I think it was this is the box For those who don't know the name of it.
I know some. Oh, sorry.
There's Wired actually does a scene breakdown of this with Denis Villeneuve. So definitely check that out on Wired. They're not.
I watched that just
Is it
before we came on.
Variety
Yeah.
or Wired?
I think it's Wired, isn't it?
I think
Okay,
What
sorry.
variety?
Well, I'll post a link somewhere.
It's a video, yeah.
When Paul fights Jamis, you realize that the person who
Yeah.
taught Paul everything he knows about the Fremen through his visions was Jamis in another timeline.
Yeah.
And
That
that
was
is
really
that's new, and that's something that's fucking cool as shit.
Mhm.
That
So
is
that-
super cool.
It actually
New.
blows my mind now that you've confirmed that, because I kind of thought that was what was going on, but I guess I'm
Mhm.
too tied to normal movies to appreciate that, because I was like, was that really what happened? Was that really like
Yeah.
a
Yeah,
whole other
yeah.
possibility?
That's
that-
really cool. Paul's seeing all these different timelines, which I love that they showed that.
Crazy.
And also Jamis is like the one at the beginning of the movie who's shooting at one of the carriers
He's
that the
one of
Harkonnens.
snipers.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's very cool. But that's me.
Wow.
yeah, I thought that
Oh,
was
you
really
just
cool.
blew my mind. Holy crap.
I told you, I love this movie. It's just not the same thing as Dune. Is what I'm. It's not the same. It's someone's Dune. It's not Frank Herbert's Dune.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
But that's how it's going to be, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm
Lord of
not.
the
I'm not
Rings is-
upset about it. I just love the things I love about Dune,
Wow.
and
you
I wish
totally
other
just
people
blew
could
my mind.
experience them. So read the book.
Steve, any scene you want to point out as something amazing on there?
I really can't think of one right now. Honestly, I feel the opening. I guess this is a weird sort of emphasis, but in comparing all the approaches to Dune, the book actually, David, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe it opens with the scene where the Reverend Mother actually tests Paul right at the beginning.
No,
right?
she comes in and in his bedroom and talks to him and sort of gets
Okay.
a feeling for him, and then the test happens a little bit later.
Yeah.
Which, if we look at it from a structural storytelling point of view, creates a sense of like danger, right? Because like right out of the gate, right, he's threatened with death, right? And you don't even really understand why, right? And you get plunged into this universe full of intrigue and plots that are just unknown to you. And the 84 version of Dune decided to kind of go with a more narrative perspective, where it actually shows the Emperor talking with yet another party than the Spacing Guild, which is somebody who's totally irrelevant to this current film, about his plans to fuck over the Atreides, basically. Like, he's basically an architect of a way of removing a potential rival in the future.
Can you
which
pause
is
there for 1 second?
completely. Oh yeah.
Did you guys get this? Because they sort of pointed out in the film, like hint at it, that the Emperor is the one pulling the strings of the church.
That's true.
Did you get
Yeah.
that?
Okay, that came across.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah,
That came
because
across.
that was an interesting thing, because in the Lynch film, they actually show the Emperor and he personally explains his monologue, right? His villain monologue of what he's trying to do, because there are third parties who are like, we need to know what you're actually doing, because this is going to actually fuck up what we're trying to do, right?
Yeah.
So you get a much bigger
Plans
sense
within
of,
plans.
Well, I got it, because there was actually the line of dialogue towards the end where Jessica goes like, "Well, now we know what side the Emperor's on."
right.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And I thought it was really interesting that they opened with, my point being that they opened with the Fremen, because I don't think that has been done in any of the versions so far. And I
No.
thought that was really interesting to see like the Fremen perspective, because up
And then
until-
not explain like their beliefs either.
I don't think that's
Yeah.
important in this part.
Not
yet.
too-
This part,
well,
Not yet.
No,
But
not
it's
yet.
gonna be hopefully.
it will be very
But I
important in
thought-
the next one. Yeah.
But I thought it was a really interesting choice to start with the people actually of the world that is being exploited, that is the focus of all of this political and like just stuff that is way beyond their even comprehension. I thought that was a really interesting choice, and yeah, I was so glad not to have seen those scenes earlier and just sort of see that expression of that like guerrilla war that they're fighting. So anyway, that was sort of, to me, the scene that really kind of like spoke to me and said, yeah, Villeneuve kind of knows what he's doing. This is amazing.
Brent.
Yeah.
Any scenes that that you want to shout out or not? We talked about
I
a
mean,
lot
like,
tonight.
yeah, we talked about it. There's not really like any super specific, like that really like stood out to me that we haven't already discussed. I mean, like the Sardaukar scene with the throat singing, like
the Mongolian throat
crazy.
singing.
Yeah.
I want to
so
learn throat
cool.
singing after that.
But
But the one scene that we haven't really discussed, which was kind of like vital, was the when Stilgar comes to meet with them.
Yeah, Stilgar was good.
And like I love that scene just for the fact that like when he spits and everything seems
The water
being
in your
disrespectful,
body.
and it turns out it's like no, it's like this is like a sign of peace. Like
that's a the movie, right, Steve? I don't remember that. I don't remember Stilgar
It's
meeting.
it's in the extended cut.
It's in the director's cut of 2000 as well.
Right,
That's
but
also
is
in
it in the
director's cut.
book?
I think it is.
I don't remember Stilgar. Okay, I
can't.
it's in
that.
this movie though.
Yeah.
That's important. Yeah. No, it's really cool, Brent, that you point that out because I feel that it was a very understated performance, and I think Javier Bardem did a really good job. So anyway, that's all I wanted to say.
I really like him as Stilgar.
As soon as he walked into the scene, the whole time I was just waiting for him to speak because I'm waiting for that gravelly voice. And it was almost like they knew you were, and they just kept him from talking. And then they kept talking to him, and he still wasn't saying anything. And I'm like, God damn it, speak! And then the gravelly
He's
voice.
still
comes out,
unguarded.
like, there it is.
He's
cool.
a man
That's
of few
cool.
words.
Dave, to practice throat singing, I have actually done this through choral singing. It's you were making that sound, but go through the different vowels, and then just do, and then just do the mouthing of it. You don't have to actually say the actual vowel.
What if I'm learning ventriloquism, Eric? You don't know.
Shows, are there any scenes or anything that you want to mention?
I liked the rescue of that harvester. When just the way that it showed that the Duke was,
cool.
he didn't care about the spice as much as he wanted to protect the people.
Nice.
Right, and he went down there and he tried to rescue those people, and just the special effects too of watching that thing get sucked up into the mouth of the worm. This is a really cool scene.
Yeah,
that's really awesome for you to emphasize that, because in the 84 there's a lot more voiceover with Liette kind of really emphasizing the fact that, oh wow, this Duke really cares more about people than profits, right? So it's really cool that when they took that out, that was still emphasized. No, thanks for pointing it out. That's really awesome.
Damn the spice.
I will mention one other scene, and it's a very short scene. It's when the Fremen are when they're all in that little ecological place, and the Fremen are making tea or coffee. Or something.
They're making coffee. It's the coffee service, yeah.
And then they hear something, and then they immediately hide.
Yeah, they went.
And then they just sort of come out of the sand and attack the Harkonnen there. Fuck.
No.
Oh no, the
those
Harkonnen.
are Sardaukar.
Sardaukar. Sorry, my bad. I did realize I said that in mistake. But it just shows that there's such an amazing fighting force, and just their ingenuity and how well they know their environments. Oh my God. It's in just that little scene, you see all of that, and that's phenomenal.
That's true.
And I can't believe that not one of us brought up at one point the fact that they walk around in the desert drinking their own ball sweat.
Well, it's full body sweat. Like I understand.
Ball sweat.
Okay, so last thing before
the sweat comes from worse places than their balls, Brent.
Yeah, could be butt sweat.
I swear at one point someone did say drink the taint.
I don't think that's happened. Anyway, in 2019,
I have something to share with you.
In June 2019, Legendary Television, who produced the film, announced that they're making Dune: The Sisterhood, which is the TV series for HBO Max. It's going to be the first episode is going to be directed by Denis Villeneuve, and it's going to be written by the same guys who did the movie. Excited to hear some of the backstory of them.
I'm happy for anything more Dune, because that will potentially provide more film Dune. Yeah. But I'm not as big of a fan of the Brian Herbert stuff as David is. I feel that's a little bit.
I only read those first 3 novels.
Yeah, I actually,
and they were very good because it's just humans versus machines. It was really cool.
What about the newbies, Brent and Shouse? Are you excited to learn more of the backstory?
I'm excited for the next movie. I don't know that this movie really captured me the way that it did you guys, in the sense that now I must absorb all things Dune.
Fair.
I mean, I'll watch it. I'll try it out and see how it is, and if I like it, I'll continue. If not, then I won't. It's just that's kind of where I'm at with it.
This is more of a prequel to the film. So just to give some context. Shouse, what about you?
Exact same as Brent.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah,
Good to know.
you'll see
Almost
it if you
word
have
for
to.
word. Yeah.
I think hopefully it'll be good. I assume HBO Max has some really good TV shows, so
Mhm.
let's hope. As long as it's not Titans, I'm happy, and as long as they don't cast Mel Gibson in a pivotal role, I'll be fine with this being in this
Titans is
franchise.
okay.
I'm looking
No,
forward
it's
to the
bad
comments
wigs.
saying
They're
Dune's
bad
ripping off
wigs.
other stuff, ripping off Star Wars and ripping off
Yeah.
Warhammer. Can't wait, baby.
All right.
As a Warhammer fan, I find it really funny. Everyone's making memes about how like, oh my god, I just saw Doom. They totally ripped off Warhammer, and I just like, and of course everyone's memeing the shit out of that because it's the other way around. Anyway,
Yeah.
sorry. Also, StarCraft was a ripoff of anyway.
Yes, true. Final thing, excited for if they make the next film. Dave, go first.
Yeah, I'd love to see a sequel. I'd love to see Denis Villeneuve direct it. I don't think he will.
I think he will. He wants to.
I think he wants to, but I don't think they're gonna like. I just think WB and he just don't see eye to eye, and I don't think it'll happen, especially after Blade Runner. Just and everybody loves Blade Runner, but it didn't make money.
Just like the original Blade Runner.
That's right.
Steve.
I am a little more optimistic. I feel like WB is holding onto their cards for a moment to maximize the announcement that they're going to do a sequel. I think the plans are already in place, but I don't want to say so until the numbers have actually rolled through. I think they're just waiting for like a good news story to attach it to. But I understand. I've watched a lot of studio bullshit, specifically with Disney and Ryan Johnson, and based on that, I feel there's a good chance that we will probably get a sequel with Villeneuve.
Counterpoint.
Yeah.
Based on all the DC movies, I don't think WB knows what the fuck they're doing in terms of that
And
stuff.
I will say that is a fair point. So.
Although DC, they had the fandom the other day, and what they were saying was actually pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't. Truthfully, I've been so laser focused on Star Wars, as everybody knows, that I know a lot of the political machinations with that. With the DC side, there's been a lot of change of who's in charge.
We'll talk about after
their
the
whole basically Warner Brothers, it's hard to say what exactly they're about right now. So I feel like there's a good chance that Villeneuve will get his sequel because of the way he gambled everything on this first movie. And I hope, I mean, I know I'm biased, but I hope that people came away from this movie, even if they're not Dune fans, with really excited anticipation. So yeah, anyway.
I do like that every single interview is like, do you think they're going to do a sequel? And all the cast are like, come on, man. Don't be like that with me.
yeah, exactly. Like that to me, I feel is like actually kind of a tailored narrative, but anyway.
All right, Brent, are you excited for the next film?
I'm absolutely excited. I'm going to hot take this though, because I think that there is a strong possibility that if this movie does exceptionally well, that instead of what I would love to see is I'd love to see Villeneuve come back and do the continuation and finish the story. But I think that there is always a strong chance to this day in cinema that you're going to see them go, is it better for us to hire him to make his vision, or to bring in somebody lesser and let's split this into two movies? Let's Hobbit this, let's Hunger Games this, and expand the story even further into 2 or 3 movies.
Not enough.
You just ruined my day, man. You just totally ruined
No, wait, because the book is three books. So the one book is 3 books. So this could work.
Then they split it into 4 parts instead of
especially if we go into a little Paul of Dune.
Oh, brother. Okay, David is an absolute fanboy elitist. Doesn't know what the fuck.
I haven't read Paul of Dune.
What I'm saying though,
I just like to antagonize people.
I just want Children of Dune. Okay, sorry.
No. Shows. What do you think? Do you hope there's a sequel? Do you want to see it?
Yes, absolutely. I want to see what happens next.
And a final thing. I saw Dune when I was the 84 one that scared the shit out of me when I was like 5 or 6. So
as it should.
I will not show my children the 84 Dune one at their age right now.
I don't recommend anybody show the 84 version to Dune unless you're 20 plus years old.
That's true. But Shows, you're the only one with a kid out on here with me. Is this a film that you're looking forward to showing your kids? Your kids are a bit older than me.
Yeah, a little bit, but I don't think that this would really be the thing. I would think maybe
you don't want to show your kid a movie about like a kid's dad dying. That's not. Don't you love The Lion King? What are you talking about?
I don't know if this is really...
Look, Aquaman.
Yeah.
Look,
I told you the story of my
died.
daughter
Look,
and Jason
half of the
Momoa. She wants to see
MCU
this.
Look, half of the MCU is in this movie.
Oh my god.
So no, not right now, but eventually.
Yeah, maybe in the future, maybe when they're older, like older teenagers, they might. I think I appreciate it more.
There's a lot. This is
Yeah.
a long movie, right?
I have a friend who is a big Dune fan. He's the one who introduced me to Dune, and even he's kind of like, "Yeah, I'm not so sure about showing it to my daughter. She's only like, I think 10 or 12." And I think there's just,
There's
I
a
mean,
lot.
visually, there's a lot going on that's like really impressive, but yeah, there's a lot of subtleties. That's the thing, right? I think that's the one thing I wanted to emphasize is between the 84 version, which I feel, as much as us Dune fans enjoy, is a little bit of a cult classic because it's just so ridiculous.
It's exactly what it is.
The new movie is very subtle, and that's the thing. I don't think children will be able to appreciate a lot of.
It's also long.
I can
It's
tell you right
very
now,
long.
13-year-old me would not have made it through this movie because
Fair.
he wouldn't. 13-year-old me wouldn't have appreciated what this movie is.
Yeah.
And the visual style of it and everything that goes into it. Like it's to me, I just would have been like, where's the sandworms? I want more sandworms eating people. Like, you know.
Yep, fair.
I think the
You
second
and I
half
were
will
very
be easier
different
for children.
13-year-olds.
Yes.
I think the second one will be way more because of what
I
happened.
was out finding girls and you were reading Dune.
I didn't read Dune. I've never read Dune. I've only listened to the audiobook.
I'm
think
sorry, big difference.
I think the second half of this film will be way easier for people to digest because there's a lot more action
Yeah.
in general.
The second film is going to be very expensive.
Although there's a lot of quiet moments, if that, without talking.
I almost hope they make 2 more versions, kind of like the TV series, because it's not that the second part, with like Paul, basically, and this is not a spoiler, right? Paul's going to live among the Fremen. He's going to learn about that, right? So it's a question of how much emphasis you want to put on that as versus his, revenge, right? I guess that's the other way of putting it. And I don't know. I'm not really sure what to expect from him for second version, but I feel that Villeneuve, he gets it. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah,
I think we can all agree if this were done like Game of Thrones was done, that would be the best version of Dune you could get. With that kind of budget, with that kind of scope, that's what Dune would need to be to actually fulfill what people would like to see from Dune.
Sort of funny. I was actually talking to my friend about this, and we were comparing like 84 and 2021. And I was actually saying, like, the one advantage that 2021 has is the fact that Game of Thrones occurred, and the concept of houses and family struggles for imperial power are well established. So you don't need to really waste too much time on explaining that type of conflict. It's already in the zeitgeist, as they say. So I was like, yeah, you know what? We're ready for this. Like this is actually a good time, because even the term house, right? Like, when was the last time you actually ever heard the term house applied to a family, right? It was through Game of Thrones. Right?
Every video game I play, when I play.
Anyway,
for me,
we could keep talking about this for hours and hours. So I do want to wrap this up. One final thing for people who haven't seen Dune and decide to go through all this through all these spoilers.
Oh my god, how many final things are there?
I'm gonna quick through all of these people. Watch it in theaters. Watch it at home. Dave, this movie. Which one would you?
You could do either. Honestly, you could do either. It's fine.
Steve, what do you prefer?
No, in IMAX, only IMAX,
Brent,
unless you're Brent Barrett.
I was perfectly fine watching it at home because I watched like a really good copy of it, and I had a good headset on that provided really good audio quality for it. So
cool. Shows.
I watched it at home, but I think I'd love to see it in the theater.
Damn straight. I will also say go in theater, see the biggest things. Go see D-Box if you want a massage. Dave, we didn't really talk about this, but you said the 3D was good.
Yeah, it actually did served the film quite well. It gives you very cool pulling focus on things. Like there's certain scenes where the 3D is actually doing a good job emphasizing the person you should be looking at, not just. It's one of the few times I've seen a conversion, because this was not filmed in 3D. A conversion that wasn't overly dark. It was darker, but for a blind guy, I saw well enough. You were right. There are some very dark scenes. Like when I say blind guy, I mean like you go to a movie and like the lights go out. I can't see anything. I am fully fucking like you can have a flashlight on over there. I can't see anything.
Mm-hmm. But you would suggest it. So
I honestly didn't detract at all.
Okay.
And it did enhance certain scenes. When Paul's in the tent, there's with the stuff that's like very cool. It's very cool.
Okay. I retract my earlier statement about not going to 3D, because now that you mention it, a lot of the film is in daylight, so that's true. That's actually a big plus. So,
dude, the ships in oh my god, the explosions.
Anyway, go see the movie.
He's convinced me. I'm seeing it in 3D now.
It's fine. Thank you guys for coming and listening. Thank you guys for coming and talking about Dune for all this like 3 hours. I'm sorry that we had some stream troubles. I don't know what happened. We'll see how that
Dude, it doesn't matter
when we edit this. We will see you guys later. Thank you guys for coming. We'll see you guys soon. Goodbye.
Good long live the fighters.
Well, that's it for us this week on Geeks with Kids. If you want to get a hold of us, you can send us an email at podcast@geekswithkids.ca. And don't forget to like us on Facebook at facebook.com/geekswithkids. Follow us on Twitter at geekswithkidscn. Check out our pics on Instagram at geekswithkids. And you can find all of this good stuff on our website at www.geekswithkids.ca. So if you like what you hear, why don't you hit that subscribe button and leave us a comment. This podcast can be found on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, YouTube, and your favorite podcasting app. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.